Hello, friends. Welcome to the Sleep Aliens. Did you know that nearly 80% of those who watch my videos aren't subscribed? If you enjoy the content, I'd truly appreciate it if you hit that subscribe button. It helps a lot. Also, don't forget to leave a like and share your thoughts in the comments. By the way, where are you watching from? Let me know in the comments. Have you ever driven on Highway 50 at night? They call it America's loneliest road, and man, they're not lying. For 300 miles, there's nothing but sagebrush, darkness, and a deafening silence. I've been patrolling this road for the Nevada Highway Patrol for 8 years, and I thought I'd seen it all. I was wrong. My name is Riley Knox, and the incident I'm about to tell you happened 3 months ago, on a Tuesday night in October. The sky was so clear that night you could see every star, every satellite, everything. The temperature was dropping rapidly, that's how it is in the high desert, and I was about 40 miles east of Austin, Nevada. Population, 192. That's the largest town in my patrol area. The radio crackled. Unit 47, this is dispatch, you copy? That was Claire Bowen. Been working dispatch for NHP for 12 years. Voice like gravel, doesn't take crap from anyone. Good people. Copy, Bowen, go ahead. Just checking in, you're awful quiet out there tonight. I smiled, Claire worried. Yeah, well, not much to report. Couple speeders earlier. One broken down RV near Middlegate. Pretty standard Tuesday. You sound bored, Knox. Bored is good out here. Bored means nobody's dead. She laughed, that dry chuckle she does. Fair enough. Well, stay safe. Let me know when you hit the turnaround point. Will do. 47 and out. The turnaround point was another 30 miles east, near a place called Hickson Summit. After that, I'd head back west toward Fallon, end my shift around 4 a.m., go home, sleep through the day, do it all again. That was the routine. That was my life. I liked the routine. At 11:47 p.m., I saw the car. It was parked on the shoulder, right side, headlights off. No hazards, no flashers, just sitting there in the dark. Out here, that's weird. You break down on Highway 50, you put your hazards on. You want people to see you. You don't want some semi doing 80 to plow into your rear end. I slowed down, flipped on my spotlight, swept it across the vehicle. It was a sedan. Dark color, maybe blue or black, hard to tell in the spotlight. Nevada plates. Engine was running. I could see the exhaust vapor in the cold air, but no driver. I pulled up behind it, angled my cruiser so my lights hit the car, put it in park, grabbed my radio. Dispatch, Unit 47. I've got a vehicle on the shoulder, mile marker 74, eastbound. Plates, hold on. I squinted at the plate. Nevada, 7 Victor Tango 418. Engine's running, no visible occupants. I'm going to check it out. Copy that, 47. Be careful. I grabbed my flashlight, stepped out into the cold. The wind hit me immediately. That high desert wind that cuts right through your jacket. I walked up to the driver's side, shining my light inside. Empty. Keys in the ignition. Engine humming. Radio off. No purse, no phone, no wallet on the seats. Cup holder had a half-empty water bottle. Everything looked normal. Except for the part where there was no driver. I checked the back seat. Nothing. Popped the trunk with the release button inside. Nothing but a spare tire and a jack. Dispatch 47. Vehicle is empty. No signs of struggle, no personal effects. Engine's running, keys in the ignition. Gonna check the area. Copy. Want me to run the plates? Yeah, go ahead. I walked around the car, shining my flashlight into the darkness beyond the shoulder. Sagebrush, rocks, empty desert stretching out forever. No footprints in the dirt, Ground was too hard. No blood, no broken glass, nothing. Where the hell did the driver go? 47, dispatch. That plate comes back to a Sarah Milliken, age 34, Reno address. No warrants, no priors. Vehicles registered current. Copy that. Any reports of a missing person named Sarah Milliken? Negative. Checking now. Nothing in the system. I stood there staring at that empty car. The engine ticked softly. The wind howled, and somewhere in the distance I heard nothing. That's what got me. The complete and total absence of sound, except for the wind. That's when I looked up. You know that feeling when someone's watching you? That prickle on the back of your neck? That instinct that says you're not alone? I had that feeling, strong, so I looked up at the sky, and I saw it. At first I thought it was a star, just a bright point of light, higher up than a plane would fly, perfectly still. But then it moved. Not like a plane or a helicopter. Those have navigation lights, you can see them blink, you can hear them. This was silent, completely silent, and it was getting closer. Dispatch, you still there? Copy, 47, what's up? I kept my eyes on the light. It was descending now, slowly, deliberately, still silent. Bowen, I've got something weird here. Weird how? There's a light in the sky, moving, no sound. Pause. Satellite? No, it's too low, and it's moving in ways satellites don't move. Another pause, longer this time. Knox, are you feeling okay? I'm fine. I'm looking right at it. It's a white light, circular, moving southwest to northeast, completely silent. It's about, I don't know, maybe 1,000 feet up? Maybe less? Could it be a drone? Too big, too high, and too quiet. The light stopped moving. Just stopped. Hung there in the sky, directly above me. I felt my heart rate spike. My mouth went dry. Dispatch, it stopped. Stopped? Yeah, it's just hovering. Right above me. I heard Claire typing something. Knox, I'm not showing any aircraft on radar in your area. Nearest flight is commercial, 40 miles north of you, heading to Salt Lake. Then what the hell am I looking at? The light got brighter. Not gradually, just suddenly brighter, like someone turned up a dimmer switch. It was so bright I had to squint, and then I felt it. The silence. Not just the absence of sound, this was different. This was like someone hit a mute button on the entire world. The wind stopped. My radio stopped crackling. Even the hum of the patrol car engine behind me went dead quiet. It was like being underwater, or in a soundproof room, or... Knox? Knox, you there? Claire's voice came through, but it sounded distant, muffled, like she was calling to me from another room. Yeah, I'm here. Your signal just dropped. For like 10 seconds you were gone. I didn't go anywhere. Well, your radio did. What's going on out there? I looked at my watch. 11:53 p.m. I'd been standing here for... Wait, I pulled up behind the car at 11:47. That was 6 minutes ago, but it felt like 30 seconds. Bowen, what time do you have? 11:53. Why? Just checking. The light was gone. I scanned the sky, turning in a full circle. Nothing. Just stars. Just the normal, beautiful, terrifying desert sky. It's gone. The light? Yeah, it just disappeared. I heard her sigh, not a frustrated sigh, a worried sigh. Knox, you want me to send backup? Martinez is about 40 minutes west of you. No, I'm fine. I need to figure out what to do with this car. Right, the car. We still don't know where the driver is. I walked back to the sedan, shined my flashlight inside again. Everything was exactly the same. Keys in the ignition, water bottle in the cup holder, engine running. Except now there was something on the driver's seat. A phone. I stared at it. I'd checked this car 3 minutes ago, 6 minutes ago, however long ago. There was no phone, I was sure of it. I'm trained to notice details. There was no phone on that seat. Dispatch, there's a phone on the driver's seat. Okay. Is it locked? I opened the door carefully, picked up the phone with my pen, didn't want to contaminate potential evidence. The screen lit up, no passcode. The background was a photo of a woman and a little girl, maybe 5 years old, both smiling at the camera. Beach somewhere. Happy. It's unlocked. Background photo shows a woman and a child, probably our missing driver and her daughter. Check recent calls. I tapped the phone icon. The most recent call was outgoing, made at 11:39 p.m., 8 minutes before I arrived. The number had a 775 area code, Northern Nevada. Call duration 0. It never connected. Before that, there was an incoming call at 11:31 p.m. Same number. Duration 234. She got a call at 11:31, talked for 2.5 minutes, then tried to call back at 11:39, but it didn't connect. Nothing after that. Any texts? I checked. The most recent text was from yesterday, from someone named Mom. Call me when you get a chance, honey. Love you. No response. Nothing recent. Bowen, where's the driver? I don't know, Knox. This is really weird. I looked at the empty highway stretching in both directions. Not a single car in sight. Not a single light except for the stars and my patrol car's headlights. Highway 50. The loneliest road in America. And somewhere out here, Sarah Milliken was missing. I'm calling it in as a missing person. We need search and rescue out here. Copy that. I'll make the calls. Knox, you sure you're okay? Yeah. Why? You just sound, I don't know, shaken. I looked up at the sky again. Nothing but stars. I'm fine. Just tell search and rescue to get here fast. Will do. Stay safe. I stood there next to that empty car, engine running, keys in the ignition, phone on the seat, and I tried to make sense of what I'd just seen. The light, the silence, the missing time, because I was sure now that time had skipped somehow, that those 6 minutes on my watch didn't match what I'd experienced. And I thought about something my training officer told me 8 years ago, on my first night patrolling Highway 50. Out here, Knox, you're gonna see things. Weird things. Things you can't explain. And when you do, you write the report exactly as you saw it. Don't embellish, don't omit. Just the facts, and then you let it go. Because out here, the desert keeps its secrets. I pulled out my notebook and started writing. 11:47 p.m. Discovered abandoned vehicle. Mile marker 74 eastbound. Engine running. No occupants. 11:53 p.m. Observed unidentified light in sky. Circular, white, silent. Light descended and hovered directly overhead before disappearing. Radio signal lost briefly. Phone discovered on driver's seat. Was not present during initial search of vehicle. I stared at what I'd written. It sounded insane, but it was the truth. And here's the thing that really got me. When I picked up that phone, it was warm. Not cold like it should have been, sitting in a car with the windows cracked in 40-degree weather. Warm. Like someone had just been holding it. Like someone had just put it there. Search and rescue showed up 40 minutes later. 3 trucks, 8 people, thermal imaging equipment, dogs. They searched a 2-mile radius around the car. Found nothing. No footprints, no clothing, no signs of struggle. No body. No Sarah Milliken. At 2:14 a.m., they called off the active search, upgraded it to a missing person investigation, towed the car to the impound lot in Eureka. I gave my statement to the detective who showed up, left out the part about the light. Didn't seem relevant. Didn't want to sound crazy. I finished my shift at 4:17 a.m., drove home to Fallon, tried to sleep. Couldn't. Just kept seeing that light, kept feeling that silence. At 9:32 a.m., my phone rang. Claire Bowen. "Knox, you awake?" "Yeah, what's up?" They found her. I sat up. "Sarah Milliken." "Yeah?" "She just walked into a gas station in Ely, 60 miles east of where you found her car. No memory of how she got there." "What do you mean, no memory?" "I mean, she remembers driving, remembers being on Highway 50 around 11:30 p.m., and then her next memory is standing outside a gas station in Ely at 9 a.m. Everything in between? Gone." I felt cold. "Is she okay?" "Physically, yeah. Confused as hell, but okay. They're taking her to the hospital for evaluation. But Knox, they found something weird." "Weird how?" "She's got a mark on her arm. Small, circular, about the size of a dime. Looks like a burn, but it's too perfect, too symmetrical. Doctors have never seen anything like it." I closed my eyes, saw that light again, felt that silence. "Knox, you there?" "Yeah, I'm here." "You didn't see anything else last night, did you? Anything you didn't put in the report?" I thought about it. Thought about my training officer's advice. Just the facts. And then let it go. "No," I lied. "Nothing else." But I had seen something. And I was starting to realize that Highway 50 had more secrets than I'd ever imagined. And this was just the first night. 3 weeks after Sarah Milliken walked into that gas station in Ely, I got called into Sergeant Vance's office. That's never good. Vance is old-school highway patrol. Been doing this for 26 years, seen everything, doesn't scare easy. But when I walked into his office that Monday morning, he looked concerned. "Close the door, Knox." I closed it, sat down across from his desk. He had a file folder in front of him, thick, maybe 30 pages. He didn't open it right away, just looked at me. "How you been sleeping?" Weird question. "Fine, sir. Why?" "Because I've been reading your reports from the last 3 weeks, and I'm seeing a pattern I don't like." He opened the folder, pulled out the first page. My report from the night I found Sarah Milliken's car. He tapped it with his finger. "October 17th, abandoned vehicle, mile marker 74. Driver missing for 10 hours, found 60 miles away with no memory of how she got there. Unexplained burn mark on her arm." He pulled out another page. "October 24th. You responded to a call about erratic driving near mile marker 98. By the time you got there, vehicle was pulled over. Driver unconscious behind the wheel. Woke up 30 minutes later, no memory of pulling over. No medical explanation for the loss of consciousness." He kept pulling out pages. "October 29th. Truck driver reports his CB radio went dead for 15 minutes. Exact same location as the Milliken incident. November 2nd. 2 separate motorists report seeing unusual lights over the highway between Austin and Eureka. November 7th, that's 3 days ago, another abandoned vehicle. This time at mile marker 81. Driver found 12 hours later in Tonopah, 70 miles south, no memory of the drive." Vance looked up at me. "You see the pattern, Knox? All on Highway 50. All in the same general area. Not just the same area, a 15-mile stretch between mile markers 70 and 85. And they're all happening between 11 p.m. and 2 a.m. He leaned back in his chair. "Now, I've been working this highway for longer than you've been alive, and I've seen some weird shit. Desert does that, plays tricks on people, makes them see things that aren't there. Heat mirages, dust devils, ball lightning. But this? He tapped the folder. This is different. Different how? Because people are losing time, Knox. They're losing memories. And they're all getting these marks. He pulled out a photograph, slid it across the desk. It was a close-up of someone's forearm. In the center was a circular mark, perfectly round, about the size of a quarter. The skin around it was slightly raised, reddish, but the center was pale. It looked like a brand, but cleaner, more precise. This is from the truck driver on October 29th. He didn't notice it until 2 days later. Just appeared on his arm, no pain, no memory of how he got it. Vance pulled out another photo. Different arm, same mark. This is from the second abandoned vehicle case. Driver had no idea it was there until the hospital found it during examination. He looked at me hard. Sarah Milliken had one too. Exact same spot on her forearm. Exact same size and shape. I felt that cold feeling again, the one I'd had standing next to her car, watching that light descend. What's causing it? That's what I'm trying to figure out. I've got calls into the FAA asking about any unusual aircraft activity in that area. I've contacted Nellis Air Force Base asking if they've been running exercises. Hell, I even called the Air Force Base at Tonopah Test Range, asked if they had anything to do with it. And they all say the same thing. No unusual activity, no exercises, no aircraft. The FAA says there haven't been any flight plans filed for that area in weeks. Tonopah Test Range won't tell me anything, but that's normal. They never do. And Nellis says their nearest training area is 100 miles south. Vance closed the folder. Knox, I'm going to ask you something, and I need you to be straight with me. That night you found Milliken's car, did you see anything? Anything you didn't put in your report? I thought about lying again. Thought about my training officer's advice. Let it go. But I couldn't. Not anymore. I saw a light. Vance didn't look surprised. What kind of light? Circular. White. Silent. It descended from high altitude, stopped directly above me, got brighter, and then disappeared. While it was there, I lost radio contact with dispatch for about 10 seconds. And I lost time, felt like 30 seconds, but it was actually 6 minutes. Vance nodded slowly. Why didn't you put that in your report? Because it sounded insane. Yeah, it does. He opened his desk drawer, pulled out another folder. Thinner than the first one. He slid it across the desk. Read this. I opened it. Inside were 3 incident reports, all dated from 2019, all filed by the same officer. Sergeant Marcus Vance. The first one was from April 2019. Responded to report of abandoned vehicle, mile marker 76, Highway 50. Driver missing. Vehicle engine running, doors unlocked, no signs of struggle. Observed unusual aerial phenomenon during investigation. Circular light source silent, exhibiting non-standard flight characteristics. The second was from June 2019. Multiple reports of unusual lights over Highway 50 between mile markers 70 to 85. 3 separate witnesses. Lights described as circular, bright white, moving in ways inconsistent with known aircraft. The third was from September 2019. Driver found disoriented at mile marker 79. No memory of previous 4 hours. Small circular mark discovered on left forearm during medical examination. Mark consistent with thermal burn, but no apparent heat source. I looked up at Vance. You've seen this before. 3 times in 2019, then nothing for 2 years. Now it's starting again, and it's happening more frequently. He leaned forward. Knox, I need you to understand something. I've been trying to figure out what the hell is going on out there for 5 years. I've filed reports with the state, with the FAA, with every agency I could think of. You know what happened? Nothing. They buried it, told me to stop wasting their time with unsubstantiated claims and anecdotal evidence. So, what are you saying? I'm saying that something is happening on that stretch of highway. Something that makes people lose time and memory. Something that leaves marks on their bodies. Something that shows up on absolutely zero radar, infrared, or satellite imaging. He paused. And I'm saying that if you keep patrolling out there, you're going to see it again. And when you do, I need you to document everything. Photos, videos, whatever you can get. Because right now, we don't have a single piece of physical evidence. We've got stories. And stories don't mean shit to the people who can actually investigate this. I looked at the photos again. Those perfect circular marks. Sarah Milliken had one. The truck driver had one. The second abandoned vehicle driver had one. Sergeant, what do you think it is? Vance was quiet for a long moment. Then he said something I'll never forget. I think there are things in the sky over Nevada that we're not supposed to see. I think Highway 50 runs through an area where those things operate, and I think that sometimes people get too close. And when they do, something happens to them. Something that takes their time, their memory, and leaves a mark that says, we were here. You think it's, what, military? Experimental aircraft? I don't know. Maybe. Or maybe it's something else. Something we don't have words for yet. He stood up. All I know is that I've got 7 cases in 5 years, and every single one of them happened in the same 15-mile stretch of highway. That's not random, Knox. That's deliberate. Whatever it is, it's choosing that location for a reason. I left Vance's office with copies of all the reports. Spent the next 2 days reading through them, over and over, looking for connections. And I found them. Every incident happened on a Tuesday or Wednesday night. Every incident happened between 11 p.m. and 2 a.m. Every victim, if you can call them that, was alone in their vehicle. And every single one of them reported the same thing, if they remembered anything at all. A feeling of being watched. A sensation that something was in the sky above them. And silence. That impossible, unnatural silence. On Thursday night, November 10th, I was back on patrol. Same shift, same route, same lonely highway. I volunteered for it. Vance didn't want me to. Said I could take a different route if I wanted. But I said no, because if something was out there, if something was watching that stretch of highway, I wanted to see it again. I wanted to document it. I wanted answers. At 11:24 p.m., I was approaching mile marker 74, the exact spot where I'd found Sarah Milliken's car. The night was clear, cold, wind blowing hard enough to rock the patrol car when gusts hit. I had my dashcam recording. I had my phone ready to take photos. I was prepared. At 11:26 p.m., my radio died. Not the whole radio, just the sound. The lights on the display were still on, showing that it was transmitting and receiving, but no sound came through. I clicked the microphone. Nothing. Dispatch, Unit 47 radio check. Silence. I pulled over at mile marker 74, put the car in the park, grabbed my phone. No signal. 5 bars a minute ago. Now nothing. I tried to make a call failed. And then I felt it. That sensation of being watched. I looked up through the windshield. The sky was full of stars, beautiful and terrible and infinite. And among those stars, I saw movement. 3 lights. Not one this time. 3. They were in formation, triangular, moving slowly from west to east. completely silent. As I watched, they stopped, all three at the same time, just hung there in the sky, maybe 2,000 feet up. I grabbed my phone, opened the camera, started recording. The phone screen showed the three lights clearly. I zoomed in as far as the camera would let me. They looked like stars, but brighter, whiter, and they were pulsing very slightly, like a heartbeat. Then the middle light descended. It came down slowly, deliberately, maintaining perfect stability. As it got lower, I could see it more clearly. It wasn't a light, it was an object emitting light. Circular, maybe 30 feet in diameter, completely smooth. No seams, no panels, no windows. Just a perfect, glowing disk. It stopped about 500 feet directly above my patrol car. The silence hit me like a wave. Suddenly, I couldn't hear the wind anymore. Couldn't hear the engine. Couldn't hear my own breathing. It was like being in a vacuum in the emptiness of space where sound doesn't exist. My phone's camera was still recording. I held it up, filming the disk above me. It was so bright now that it hurt to look at, but I kept filming. I needed this. I needed proof. And then I saw something that made my blood run cold. The disk had markings on it. Not writing exactly, but patterns. Geometric shapes arranged in concentric circles around the edge. They were rotating slowly, clockwise, each ring moving at a different speed. It was hypnotic, beautiful, terrifying. My phone screen went black. I looked at it. The camera app was frozen. Battery showed 67%, plenty of charge. But the phone was dead. I looked back up at the disk. It was descending again, coming lower. 300 feet, 200, 100. I should have been scared. Should have started the car and driven away as fast as I could. But I couldn't move. I was paralyzed, not by fear, but by something else. Fascination, curiosity. A feeling that I was supposed to be here, supposed to see this. The disk stopped about 50 feet above me, close enough that I could see details now. The surface wasn't solid. It was made of something that looked like liquid metal, flowing and rippling. The geometric patterns weren't painted or carved. They were part of the material itself, glowing from within. And then I felt it in my head. Not a voice exactly, more like a presence, like someone else's thoughts were in my mind, alongside my own. You are not in danger. You are observed. You are documented. I tried to speak. Couldn't. My mouth wouldn't work. My vocal cords were frozen. Do not be afraid. This is necessary. You will remember. The light got brighter, so bright that I had to close my eyes. And when I did, I saw something. Images. Memories that weren't mine. I saw the highway from above, stretching through the desert like a black ribbon. I saw my patrol car, small and insignificant, a toy on an empty road. I saw other cars, other nights. Other people stopped on the shoulder, looking up at the sky. I saw Sarah Milliken, standing next to her car, phone in hand, staring up at the light. I saw the truck driver pulled over at mile marker 98, CB radio dead, watching the same thing I was watching now. I saw dozens of them, hundreds. People on Highway 50, scattered across years, all seeing the same thing, all experiencing the same moment of contact. And then I saw something else, something deeper, older. I saw the desert before there was a highway, before there were people. I saw the lights descending from the stars, over and over, across centuries, across millennia, coming to this place, this specific place. This location is significant. This location is monitored. You are witnesses. The light began to fade. The images stopped. I opened my eyes. The disk was ascending. Slowly, smoothly, it rose back into the sky. The other two lights, still in formation above, waited for it. When it reached their altitude, all three moved together, accelerating rapidly, and disappeared into the stars. Sound came back. The wind, the engine, my own breathing, fast and shallow. I looked at my watch, 11:47 p.m. I'd pulled over at 11:26 p.m., 21 minutes. Gone. My phone rebooted itself. The camera app opened. I went to the gallery, pulled up the video I'd been recording. It was there, all of it. The three lights in formation, the descent of the middle disk, the geometric patterns, 21 minutes of footage, clear and undeniable. I had proof. My radio crackled. Unit 47, this is dispatch. Knox, you copy? Claire's voice. Worried. I grabbed the microphone, hand shaking. Copy, dispatch, I'm here. Jesus Christ, Knox, where have you been? I've been trying to raise you for 20 minutes. Your GPS showed you stopped at mile marker 74, but you weren't responding. I had some technical difficulties. Radio and phone went out. At the same time? Yeah. Pause. Knox, did you see anything? I looked up at the sky. Just stars now. Normal, distant, silent stars. Yeah, Bowen, I saw something. And I got it on video. Another pause. Longer. Get back to the station. Now. Don't stop, don't talk to anyone. Just get here. Copy that. I put the patrol car in drive and headed west toward Fallon, toward the station, toward whatever came next. My phone sat in the cup holder, battery at 67%, gallery showing 21 minutes of impossible footage. And on my left forearm, I felt a slight burning sensation. I didn't want to look, didn't want to confirm what I already knew, but I did. I rolled up my sleeve. There it was. A perfect circle, about the size of a quarter, slightly raised, reddish around the edges. The mark, I was one of them now, one of the witnesses, one of the documented. Highway 50, the loneliest road in America. And I was beginning to understand why. The conference room at the Fallon station was small, windowless, and cold. Sergeant Vance was there. Claire Bowen. A woman I'd never seen before in a dark suit, no badge, no name tag, and two men in Air Force uniforms, majors, based on the insignia. My phone sat in the middle of the table, powered off, evidence bag next to it. Officer Knox, the woman in the suit said. My name is Dr. Elizabeth Keene. I'm with a federal task force that monitors unusual aerial phenomena in Nevada airspace. I need you to tell me in your own words exactly what you saw tonight. I told her every detail. The three lights, the formation, the descent, the disk, the geometric patterns, the silence, the voice in my head, the lost time, the mark on my arm. She didn't interrupt, didn't take notes. One of the Air Force majors did that. Just listened. Face completely neutral, giving nothing away. When I finished, she said, "And you have video footage of this encounter?" "Yes, ma'am. 21 minutes, recorded on my phone." "Have you shown this footage to anyone?" "No, ma'am. I came directly here." "Have you uploaded it anywhere? Cloud storage, social media, email?" No, ma'am. She nodded, looked at the Air Force majors. Some silent communication passed between them. Then she looked back at me. "Officer Knox, what I'm about to tell you is classified. You will not repeat it to anyone outside this room. You will not discuss it with family, friends, fellow officers, or media. If you do, you will be prosecuted under federal law. Do you understand?" I looked at Vance. He nodded slightly. "Yes, ma'am, I understand." "Good." The phenomena you witnessed tonight is not unknown to us. It's been occurring in this region, specifically along Highway 50 between mile markers 70 and 85, for at least 30 years. We have documented over 200 separate incidents in that time frame. Your encounter is consistent with the pattern. She pulled a tablet from her briefcase, tapped the screen, turned it toward me. It showed a map of Nevada with Highway 50 highlighted. In the section between mile markers 70 and 85, there were red dots. Lots of them. Dozens upon dozens clustered together. Each dot represents a documented encounter. Most of them are from civilian reports, motorists, truck drivers, campers. Some are from law enforcement like yourself. A few are from military personnel on leave traveling through the area. She zoomed in. The encounters occur primarily between 11 p.m. and 2 a.m., Tuesday through Thursday nights. Peak activity is between November and March. We don't know why. What are they? I asked. She looked at me for a long moment. We don't know. You don't know? We have theories, we have data, we have footage, including yours, which will be very valuable. But we don't have a definitive answer. What we do know is this: the objects are real, they are physical, they emit electromagnetic radiation, they interfere with electronics and radio communications, they affect human consciousness and memory, and they leave marks on people, marks that appear to be some kind of tagging system. Tagging? One of the Air Force majors spoke up. Like researchers marking animals. We tag bears, wolves, birds, track their movements, study their behavior. Someone, or something, is doing the same thing to humans in this region. We think the marks are identifiers, ways to track who's been observed. I looked down at my arm. The mark was still there, still slightly raised. Why here? Why Highway 50? Dr. Keene tapped the tablet again. The map zoomed out, showing a broader view of Nevada. This is sensitive, Officer Knox, but you need to understand the context. Nevada is home to multiple classified military installations. Nellis Air Force Base, Tonopah Test Range, the Nevada Test Site. Area 51, yes, it's real. We conduct advanced aerospace research and testing here. We always have. Some of that research involves experimental aircraft that, to a civilian observer, might appear unusual. You're saying this is military, that the discs are ours? I'm saying some of the sightings in Nevada are ours. Experimental drones, stealth aircraft, reconnaissance platforms. We test them out here because it's remote, because we can control access, because civilians are rare. She paused. But what you saw tonight, that's not ours. The room went quiet. Then whose is it? We don't know, she said again. And that's the problem. We've been monitoring this phenomenon for 3 decades. We've tried to intercept the objects, failed, tried to communicate, no response. Tried to predict when and where they'll appear. The pattern holds, but it's not precise enough. They come and go as they please, and we have no way to stop them or understand them. Vance spoke up. Dr. Keene, if these objects aren't ours, and they're operating in controlled airspace conducting what appears to be surveillance or research on American citizens, why hasn't this been made public? She smiled, but there was no humor in it. Because we don't have answers, Sergeant. And the public doesn't react well to "we don't know." Panic, conspiracy theories, demands for action we can't take. It's easier, safer to keep it quiet. We monitor, we document, we research. And we tell people like Officer Knox that what they saw stays between us. I felt anger rising. So, I'm just supposed to forget it? Pretend it didn't happen? No. You're supposed to document it, provide us with your footage and testimony, and then continue your work. If you see it again, and you probably will, you report it to Sergeant Vance, who reports it to us. You're part of the observation network now, Officer Knox. You're a witness. That's valuable. And if I refuse, if I go public with the video..." The Air Force major on the right leaned forward. "Then you'll be arrested for violating national security protocols. Your footage will be seized. You'll lose your job, possibly face federal charges, and the video will be buried so deep that it might as well not exist." His voice wasn't threatening, just matter of fact. "We're not the bad guys here, officer. We're trying to figure out what's happening just like you are. But we need to control the information flow for everyone's safety." Dr. Keene stood up. "Officer Knox, we need your phone. We need the footage. We'll make copies of everything, return the device to you within 48 hours. But the original stays with us." I looked at Vance again. He nodded. "Let it go," his expression said. "This is bigger than us." I slid the phone across the table. Dr. Keene picked it up, handed it to one of the majors. He put it in a metallic case, Faraday cage probably to prevent any wireless transmission, and sealed it. "Thank you for your cooperation, Officer Knox. Someone will be in touch." She picked up her briefcase, nodded to Vance, and left. The two Air Force majors followed. When the door closed, it was just me, Vance, and Claire. "They're going to bury it," I said. "Just like all the others." Vance sighed. "Yeah, they will." So what was the point? Why did I even document it? Because now it's on record. Because now there's one more piece of evidence that something is out there. And someday, maybe not today, maybe not for years, there'll be enough evidence that they can't bury it anymore. He stood up. "Get some rest, Knox. Take a couple days off. Process what happened." I drove home as the sun was coming up, crawled into bed, stared at the ceiling, and I thought about that voice in my head. "You are observed. You are documented. You will remember." I would remember all of it. The lights, the disc, the silence, the mark. They couldn't take that away from me. 3 days later, my phone was returned. The video was gone, deleted. No trace of it in the gallery, no trace in deleted files, no backup in the cloud. Just gone. But I still had the mark, and I still had the memory. I went back on patrol the following Tuesday. Same shift, same route. Drove through mile marker 74, mile marker 79, mile marker 85. Watched the sky. Waited. Nothing happened. November turned into December. December turned into January. I patrolled Highway 50 every week, always watching, always waiting. The nights got colder, the stars got brighter, and the highway stayed empty. No lights, no discs, no silence. And then, on a Tuesday night in February at 11:34 p.m., 20 miles east of Austin, I saw them again. 3 lights. Formation. Descending. I pulled over, grabbed my phone. They'd returned it, but I'd bought a second one, hidden in my glove box just for this. Started recording. The middle light descended. The disc appeared, geometric patterns rotating, glowing, hypnotic. The silence hit me. The voice returned. "You are observed. You are documented." But this time, it said something else. "You are chosen." The light grew brighter. I closed my eyes. Saw the images again. The highway from above, the cars, the people, the centuries of visitation. But this time I saw something new. I saw the future. I saw myself, older, standing in that same spot, watching the lights with understanding instead of fear. I saw others with me, people with the marks, people like me. Witnesses. Chosen. I saw the purpose. We weren't victims. We weren't test subjects. We were witnesses to something humanity wasn't ready to understand yet. We were the record keepers, the ones who would remember when everyone else forgot or denied. The lights were a message. The marks were a seal. And the silence was a promise. We are watching. We are here. We have always been here. When I opened my eyes, the disc was gone. But the video was recording. 3 minutes, clear and perfect. I saved it. Encrypted it. Backed it up in 3 different places, none of them connected to the cloud. Then I drove home and wrote this. Because Dr. Keene was wrong about one thing. They don't control the information flow. Not completely. Not anymore. My name is Riley Knox. I'm a Nevada Highway Patrol officer, and I'm telling you, there are things in the sky over Highway 50. Things that watch us, mark us, remember us. And whether the government wants you to know it or not, they're real. I've seen them. I've been marked by them. And I'm not the only one. If you drive Highway 50 at night, between mile markers 70 and 85, watch the sky. Maybe you'll see them too. Maybe you'll feel that silence. Maybe you'll become a witness. And if you do, remember this. You are not alone. You are not crazy. And you are not in danger. You are observed. You are documented. And you will remember. You know what the worst sound in the world is? It's not a scream. It's not a gunshot. It's the sound of someone's voice breaking over a 911 call, trying to stay calm when everything inside them is screaming. I'm Deputy Mason Alvarez, Nye County Sheriff's Office. I work the overnight shift covering the area around Tonopah, Nevada, about halfway between Las Vegas and Reno, right in the middle of absolutely nowhere. Population of Tonopah is maybe 2,500 on a good day. The rest of my patrol area? Empty desert, old mining towns, and Highway 95 cutting through it all like a scar. It was a Wednesday night in January, cold as hell, clear skies. I was parked at a turnout near Tonopah Pass, about 8 miles north of town, doing paperwork. Glamorous stuff, speeding tickets, incident reports, the usual. My shift had been quiet, too quiet. The kind of quiet that makes you nervous, like the desert's holding its breath. At 11:42 p.m., my radio crackled. All units, we have a 911 call, female motorist reporting vehicle breakdown on Highway 95 northbound, approximately mile marker 112. Caller states vehicle lost power suddenly. No mechanical warning. Requesting assistance. I grabbed the mic. Dispatch, this is Unit 23. I'm at mile marker 119. I can be there in 5 minutes. Copy that, 23. Caller's name is Lara Voss, driving a 2018 Honda Civic, blue. She sounds pretty shaken up. Any injuries? Negative. Just scared. She says something weird happened. I felt that familiar tightness in my chest. Out here, something weird usually means something bad. Copy, en route. I flipped on my lights and headed south on 95. The highway was empty. No traffic, no lights except for the stars and my own headlights cutting through the dark. Tonopah Pass is a lonely stretch even by Nevada standards. No towns, no gas stations, no houses. Just open desert, and the skeletal remains of old mining operations scattered across the hills. At mile marker 112, I saw the car. Blue Honda Civic, just like dispatch said, pulled onto the shoulder, hazards blinking. No other vehicles around. I pulled up behind it, angled my patrol car for safety, hit my spotlight. A woman was standing next to the driver's door, arms wrapped around herself, shivering. Not dressed for the cold. Jeans, light jacket, sneakers. She looked to be in her early 30s, dark hair pulled back in a ponytail, and even from 20 feet away, I could see she was terrified. I grabbed my flashlight and stepped out. "Ma'am, Deputy Alvarez, Nye County Sheriff, you called 911? She nodded, teeth chattering, not just from the cold. Yes, thank you. Thank you for coming." "Are you hurt?" No, I'm okay, I think. I don't know." I approached slowly, keeping my tone calm. "Okay, let's start simple. What's your name?" Lara Voss." "Okay, Lara, can you tell me what happened?" She looked at me, then at her car, then up at the sky. That last one, looking at the sky, that's what got me. Because her expression when she did it wasn't confusion or frustration. It was fear. I was driving north, heading home to Reno. Just cruising along, music on, everything normal. And then, she trailed off. And then what? The light came down. I felt cold, not the desert cold, something else. What light? From the sky. A light from the sky came down, right over my car. Bright. So bright I had to squint, and then the engine died, radio died, phone died, everything just stopped. I looked at the Honda. Hazards were still blinking, which meant the battery was working. "Your hazards are on now." "Yeah, they came back on after it left." "After what left?" She looked at me like I was being deliberately dense. The light, the thing, whatever it was. I pulled out my notebook. Standard procedure. Write everything down, even if it sounds crazy. Especially if it sounds crazy. "Can you describe this light?" "Circular. White. Like a spotlight, but bigger. Way bigger. And it made this humming sound. Not loud, but you could feel it. In your chest, in your bones. How long did this last?" "I don't know. A minute? 5 minutes?" Time felt weird. And then what happened? It went back up, just rose straight up into the sky and disappeared. And as soon as it was gone, my car started working again. Engine turned back on by itself, radio came back, everything. She hugged herself tighter. "Deputy, I know how this sounds, I know. But I'm not crazy. I'm not drunk. I saw what I saw." I believed her, not because I wanted to, but because I'd heard this story before. Different people, different nights, but always the same details. The light, the engine failure, the humming, the lost time. And always on Highway 95 somewhere around Tonopah Pass. "Lara, I believe you. And you're not the first person to report something like this in this area." I gestured toward my patrol car. "Why don't you sit in my vehicle for a minute, warm up? I'm going to check your car, okay?" She nodded, relief washing over her face. "Thank you. Thank you for not thinking I'm insane." I walked her to my patrol car, got her settled in the back seat with the heater running, then went to examine her Honda. Popped the hood, shined my flashlight on the engine. Everything looked normal. No loose wires, no leaking fluids, no obvious damage. I checked the battery terminals. Clean, tight, no corrosion. I walked around the car, checking the body, the tires, the undercarriage. Nothing unusual. Car looked perfectly fine. Except for one thing. On the roof, directly in the center, there was a mark. Circular, about the size of a dinner plate. The paint was wrong. Not scorched exactly, but discolored. Lighter than the surrounding blue, almost white, with a very faint pattern inside. Concentric circles, like a bullseye. I touched it. The metal was warm. Not hot, but warmer than it should be on a 30-degree night. I pulled out my phone, took photos. Then I walked back to the passenger side of the car, looked at the ground. The shoulder here was dirt and gravel, typical desert hardpan. I swept my flashlight across it, and that's when I saw them. Tire tracks. But not regular tire tracks. These were melted. The rubber had liquefied, leaving dark streaks in the dirt like someone had dragged hot tar across the ground. The tracks led from where the car was now parked back about 15 feet, then stopped abruptly. I crouched down, touched one of the marks. The dirt was warm, fused almost, like it had been subjected to intense heat. Dispatch, Unit 23. Go ahead, 23. I'm at the scene with the motorist. Vehicle appears mechanically sound, but I'm seeing some unusual physical evidence. Can you get a supervisor on the line? Pause. Stand by. I stood up, looked around. The desert stretched out in every direction, dark and empty and infinite. The stars overhead were brilliant, undimmed by light pollution. Beautiful, peaceful, but I had that feeling again, the feeling of being watched. Unit 23, this is Sergeant Holloway. What's going on? Holloway, good. He'd been with the sheriff's office for 20 years, knew this area better than anyone. If something weird was happening, he'd know about it. Sarge, I've got a motorist reporting a close encounter with an unidentified aerial phenomenon. She says a light descended over her vehicle, caused complete electrical failure, then departed. I'm seeing evidence consistent with her story. Discoloration on the roof of the vehicle, and what looks like heat damage to the ground where the car was parked. Long pause. Did you say mile marker 112? Affirmative. Another pause. Stay with the motorist, I'm en route. ETA 20 minutes. And Alvarez? Yeah? Don't let her leave yet, we need to document this properly. Copy that. The line went dead. I walked back to my patrol car, opened the back door. Laura looked up at me, eyes red. She'd been crying. Am I in trouble? No, not at all. My supervisor's coming out to take a statement. This is actually helpful. We've had reports of unusual activity in this area before, and your testimony is going to help us document it. So, I'm not crazy. You're not crazy. She let out a shaky breath. What do you think it was? I looked up at the sky, stars. Just stars. I don't know, but I'm going to find out. We sat there in silence for a few minutes. Then she said something that made my blood run cold. Deputy, can I ask you something? Sure. Do you ever feel like we're not alone out here? Like something's watching us? I looked at her. She was staring out the window, at the dark desert, at the empty highway. Yeah, I said quietly, all the time. At 12:04 a.m., Sergeant Holloway arrived. He pulled up in his patrol car, got out, walked over to Lara's Honda without saying a word. Spent 5 minutes examining it with a flashlight and a camera. When he came back, his face was grim. Alvarez, a word. We walked a few feet away from the cars. Holloway kept his voice low. This is the 4th incident in 2 months. Same location, same description, same physical evidence. Heat marks, electrical failure, lights in the sky. We've been documenting it, sending reports up the chain. And you know what we get back? Nothing. No guidance, no investigation, no follow-up, just silence. Why? He looked at me. Because this is Nevada, and Nevada has secrets. You know what's 40 miles west of here? I knew. Everyone who worked in law enforcement in this part of the state knew. Tonopah Test Range. Exactly. Air Force facility. Classified programs. Advanced aircraft testing. And you know what's 60 miles southwest? The Nevada test site. And 100 miles south? Nellis Air Force Base, Area 51, Groom Lake, all of it. He gestured at the dark sky. We're surrounded by restricted airspace, black budget programs, and things that officially don't exist. So when civilians report seeing weird lights and experiencing equipment malfunctions, we document it, we file it, and we shut up about it. That's bullshit. That's Nevada. He pulled out a business card, handed it to me. But there's someone who might be interested. Federal Task Force. Monitors unusual aerial activity. Give them a call, send them your photos and report. Maybe they'll actually do something. I looked at the card. No name, just a phone number and an email address. In the meantime, Holloway continued, we tell Ms. Voss that we're investigating, we give her the incident report number, and we send her on her way. Her car works fine now, right? Yeah, started right up when I checked it. Then, that's what we do. Standard breakdown response, nothing unusual. Have a safe trip. He looked at me hard. You got that? I understood. Cover it up. Pretend it didn't happen. Protect the secrecy. But I also understood something else. Holloway was giving me a way out. A way to report this to someone who might actually care. Yeah, I got it. We took Lara's statement, gave her the incident report number, made sure her car was running properly. She drove off at 12:30 a.m., still shaken, but grateful that someone had listened to her. After she left, Holloway and I stood there in the cold, watching her taillights disappear down the highway. You ever seen one? I asked. The lights? He was quiet for a long moment. Then, once, 3 years ago, same stretch of highway, I was alone, middle of the night. Saw something I couldn't explain, reported it, got told to forget about it. He looked at me. So I did, and I suggest you do the same. He got in his patrol car and drove away. I stood there alone, at mile marker 112, looking up at the stars. And I thought about Lara's question. Do you ever feel like we're not alone out here? Yeah, I did, and standing there in the darkness, with those melted tire tracks behind me and that mark on the roof of that Honda Civic, I felt it stronger than ever. Something was watching us. Something that could descend from the sky, shut down our technology and leave evidence that we couldn't explain. Something that the government knew about and wanted buried. I pulled out the business card Holloway had given me. No name, just a number. I got in my patrol car, finished my shift, went home as the sun came up. Sat at my kitchen table with a cup of coffee and my phone, and I made the call. The phone rang 4 times before someone picked up. No greeting, no identification, just, who gave you this number? Sergeant Holloway, Nye County Sheriff's Office. Pause. Holloway, okay, what do you have? I told them everything. The call from Lara Voss, the electrical failure, the light from the sky, the heat marks on the car, the melted tire tracks. I emailed the photos while we talked. When I finished, there was a long silence on the other end. Are you still on duty, Deputy Alvarez? No, I'm at home. Good, stay there. Someone will contact you within 48 hours. Don't discuss this with anyone except Sergeant Holloway. Don't file any additional reports, and don't go back to mile marker 112 unless you're on official duty. Who am I talking to? Someone who takes this seriously. That's all you need to know right now. The line went dead. I sat there staring at my phone, wondering what the hell I'd just gotten myself into. But I also felt something else. Relief. Because someone, somewhere, was actually listening. Someone cared about what was happening on Highway 95. I slept for a few hours, woke up around noon, went to the gym, tried to live a normal day. But I couldn't stop thinking about Lara Voss, about that mark on her car, about those melted tracks, about that feeling of being watched. At 6:30 p.m. my phone rang. Unknown number. Deputy Alvarez, speaking. My name is Dr. Sarah Tennant. I'm with a research group that studies anomalous aerial phenomena in the southwestern United States. I received your report and photos from this morning. Can we meet? When? Tonight. There's a diner in Tonopah called the Mizpah. Meet me there at 9 p.m. Come alone. She hung up before I could ask any questions. I showed up at the Mizpah at 8:05 p.m. The diner was half empty, just a few locals having late dinner. Dr. Tennant was easy to spot. Woman in her 40s, short gray hair, wearing jeans and a University of Nevada sweatshirt, sitting in a corner booth with a laptop and a thick folder. I slid into the booth across from her. She didn't waste time. Thank you for coming, Deputy. I know this is unusual, but what you witnessed last night is part of a pattern we've been tracking for 7 years. And your photos are the best physical evidence we've gotten in months. She opened the laptop, turned it toward me. The screen showed a map of Highway 95, with red dots clustered around Tonopah Pass. Each dot represents a reported incident: lights in the sky, electrical malfunctions, lost time, physical evidence. We have 73 documented cases in the last 7 years, all within a 10-mile radius of mile marker 1 or 12. She zoomed in. Peak activity is between November and February. Most incidents occur between 11 p.m. and 2 a.m., and they're getting more frequent. Why? That's what we're trying to determine. This area has a unique set of characteristics. It's remote, low population, minimal air traffic. It's also surrounded by restricted military airspace. Tonopah Test Range to the west, Nellis Range to the south. Some researchers think the phenomena is related to classified military testing. Others think it's something else entirely. What do you think? She looked at me with sharp, intelligent eyes. I think that whatever is happening here is beyond our current understanding of physics and aerospace technology. The electrical interference, the heat signatures, the precision of the flight patterns, these aren't consistent with any known aircraft, military or otherwise. You're saying it's not ours. I'm saying I don't know what it is, but I want to find out, and I need your help. What kind of help? She pulled out the folder, opened it. Inside were documents, photos, witness statements. We need law enforcement cooperation. Most civilians who experience these encounters don't report them. Either they're afraid of being ridiculed, or they don't know who to contact. But you're out there every night. You respond to calls. You have access to evidence that we don't. She slid a photo across the table. It was a close-up of tire tracks. Melted, fused, exactly like the ones I'd seen last night. This is from 2019. Different location, same highway, same pattern. Another photo. This is from 2021. Same thing. Another photo. 2023. Same thing. She looked at me. You found the 4th set last night. They're always near the site of an encounter. They're always about 15 feet long. And they always exhibit the same heat fusion characteristics, suggesting exposure to temperatures exceeding 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit. What causes it? We don't know. Whatever propulsion system these objects use, it generates enormous amounts of heat, enough to melt rubber, fuse dirt, discolor metal, but it's contained somehow, directed. The people inside the vehicles are never injured. The interiors are never damaged, just the external surfaces. She pulled out another photo, and I recognized it immediately. It was Laura Voss's Honda, showing the circular mark on the roof. This is remarkable, Deputy. The pattern inside the circle, these concentric rings, we've only seen this twice before. It appears to be some kind of marking or tagging system, like researchers marking animals for study. You're saying we're being studied. I'm saying someone, or something, is conducting systematic observations of human behavior in this area. They're selecting individuals, stopping their vehicles, examining them or their cars, and then releasing them. And they're leaving marks, possibly as identifiers, ways to track who's been observed. I thought about the mark on Lara's arm. No, wait. She didn't have a mark. I'd checked. No circular burn, no brand. Dr. Tennant saw my expression. Not all subjects receive physical marks, only about 30%. We don't know what determines who gets marked and who doesn't. A waitress came by, filled our coffee cups, left. Dr. Tennant waited until she was gone before continuing. Deputy Alvarez, I need you to do something for me. Next time you respond to a call in that area, any call, breakdown, accident, anything, I want you to document everything. Photos, measurements, witness statements, and I want you to call me immediately. We have monitoring equipment, radiation detectors, spectrum analyzers. If we can get to the site while the evidence is still fresh, we might be able to capture data that proves what's happening here. And what happens if we prove it? Then maybe we get answers. Maybe we force the government to acknowledge what's happening. Maybe we protect people instead of just documenting their trauma. She closed the folder. Or maybe nothing changes. Maybe we collect data for years and nobody cares. But at least we'll have tried. I thought about Lara Voss, terrified and alone on that dark highway. Thought about Holloway telling me to forget about it. Thought about all the other witnesses out there who'd seen something they couldn't explain and had nowhere to turn. Okay, I'm in. She smiled for the first time. Thank you. Here's my direct number. Call me anytime, day or night. And deputy, be careful out there. Whatever these things are, they're intelligent, they're deliberate, and they have an agenda. We just don't know what it is yet. We finished our coffee, exchanged contact information, and left separately. I drove home wondering what the hell I'd just signed up for. I found out 3 nights later. It was Saturday, 11:48 p.m. I was on patrol, northbound on Highway 95, about 5 miles south of Tonopah Pass. The night was cold and clear, traffic light, just a few long-haul trucks passing through. My radio crackled. Unit 23, we have a report of a stranded motorist, Highway 95 northbound, mile marker 110. Single female, vehicle won't start. Mile marker 110. 2 miles south of where I'd found Lara Voss. Copy, dispatch, en route. I hit the lights, accelerated. Mile marker 110 came up fast. I saw the vehicle, white SUV, pulled onto the shoulder, hazards blinking. A woman was standing next to it waving her arms. I pulled up behind her, grabbed my flashlight. Ma'am, Deputy Alvarez, you called for help? She was young, maybe mid-20s, blonde hair, wearing a puffy jacket and boots, and she looked scared. Yes, thank God, my car just died. I was driving along and suddenly everything shut off. Engine, radio, lights, everything. I tried to restart it, but nothing happens. I felt that cold feeling again. When did this happen? Maybe 10 minutes ago? I called 911 right away. Did you see anything unusual before the car died? Lights in the sky, strange sounds, anything? She stared at me. How did you know? Tell me what you saw. There was a light. Came down from above, really bright, right over my car. And then everything went dead. The light stayed there for maybe a minute, and then it went back up and disappeared. I pulled out my phone, called Lieutenant. She answered on the first ring. Deputy Alvarez? I've got another one. Mile marker 110, same description as the Voss incident. I'm at the scene now. I'm 40 minutes away. Don't let anyone leave. Document everything. I hung up, turned back to the woman. Ma'am, I need you to sit tight for a bit. We're going to do a thorough documentation of this incident. What's your name? Jessica Brandt. Okay, Jessica. I'm going to check your vehicle. Stay here where it's warm." I walked to her SUV, popped the hood. Engine looked fine. I checked the battery. Good. Tried to start it. Nothing. Completely dead, just like she said. I walked around the vehicle with my flashlight, and there, on the roof, was the mark. Circular, discolored, concentric rings. Exactly like the one on Lara's Honda. I took photos from every angle. Then I checked the ground. The tire tracks. Melted. Fused. 15 feet long, stopping abruptly where the SUV now sat. "Jesus," I whispered. I called Holloway, told him what I had. He said he'd be there in 20 minutes. While I waited, I took more photos, measured the tire tracks with a tape measure. Exactly 15 feet, 3 inches. Measured the mark on the roof, 8 inches in diameter. Took close-ups of the concentric ring pattern. Dr. Tennant arrived first, in a white pickup truck with equipment cases in the bed. She got out with a Geiger counter and some kind of handheld device covered in buttons and displays. "This is incredible," she said, studying the mark on the roof. "The pattern is identical to the one from 3 days ago. This is definitely systematic." She swept the Geiger counter over the vehicle. It clicked, but not alarmingly. Slight elevation in background radiation, but nothing dangerous. Whatever energy source they're using, it leaves a residual signature. She pulled out the other device. A spectrum analyzer, she explained. It measured electromagnetic frequencies. She waved it around the car, watching the display. "Look at this. Massive spike in the extremely low frequency range, right around 3 to 30 hertz. That's consistent with reports from other encounter sites. These objects emit powerful ELF radiation, which could explain the electrical interference. It disrupts the normal operation of electronic systems." Holloway arrived, took one look at the scene, and shook his head. "Here we go again." We documented everything. Took statements from Jessica, who was cooperative but shaken. Tried to start her SUV multiple times, still dead. Called a tow truck to take it to a garage in Tonopah. At 1:15 a.m., while we were finishing up, Jessica's SUV started on its own. Just turned over and began running, like nothing had ever been wrong. Jessica stared at it in disbelief. "What the hell?" Dr. Tennant looked at me. "It's the pattern. Temporary shutdown, then full restoration of function once the object departs. We've seen this in 80% of cases." We let Jessica drive away. Holloway followed her into town to make sure she got there safely. Dr. Tennant and I stayed at the scene, taking final measurements. "This is big," she said quietly. 2 incidents in 3 days, same location, identical physical evidence. This isn't random. This is active surveillance. Of what? Of us, of this highway, of human activity in this region. She looked up at the stars. "Something is here, Deputy, something that wants to observe us without being fully seen. And it's been here for a long time." I looked up, too. The stars were beautiful and cold and infinite. And somewhere up there, something was watching, waiting, documenting. And I was starting to realize that whatever it was, we were never going to stop it. We were only going to document it, study it, try to understand it, because we were the ones being studied. We were the experiment. After the Jessica Brandt incident, I started carrying extra equipment in my patrol car. Digital camera with high-resolution lenses. Voice recorder. Radiation detector. Dr. Tennant loaned me one. Spare batteries for everything. If I was going to document these encounters, I was going to do it right. For 2 weeks, nothing happened. I patrolled Highway 95 every night, watching the sky, waiting. Responded to a few calls, speeding tickets, drunk driver, one domestic dispute. But nothing unusual, no lights, no breakdowns, no marks. I started to wonder if whatever was out there had moved on. Maybe it got what it wanted. Maybe the surveillance was complete. Then came Tuesday, January 24th. I was on patrol, northbound on 95, approaching Tonopah Pass. It was 11:37 p.m. The highway was empty, the sky was clear, and I was thinking about stopping for coffee when my radio went completely dead. Not just silent, dead. The display went black. The lights went out. And then my patrol car's engine cut out. I was doing 65 miles per hour. Suddenly, I had no power steering, no brakes, no acceleration. The car coasted for a few seconds, then slowed rapidly. I managed to guide it onto the shoulder before it came to a complete stop. My heart was pounding. This was wrong. This was very wrong. I tried to restart the engine. Nothing. Not even a click. And then I felt it. That sensation of being watched. That pressure, like the air itself, was pressing down on me. I looked up through the windshield. The light was directly above me. It was huge, maybe 100 feet in diameter, circular, brilliant white, descending slowly and silently. I grabbed my camera from the passenger seat, but when I tried to turn it on, nothing happened. Dead. My phone. I reached for it. Also dead. The light got closer. 200 feet up, 150. The silence was absolute. No wind, no traffic, no sound at all except my own breathing and the pounding of my heart. I should have been terrified. Should have tried to run, tried to hide, but I couldn't move. I was paralyzed, not by fear, but by curiosity, fascination, a strange sense of calm that I couldn't explain. The light stopped about 30 feet directly above my patrol car, and I saw it clearly for the first time. It wasn't just a light. It was an object, a craft, disc-shaped, maybe 120 feet across, perfectly smooth, no seams or panels or windows. The surface looked like liquid metal, silver, flowing, rippling. And embedded in that surface were patterns, geometric designs arranged in concentric circles, rotating slowly, each ring moving independently. The patterns glowed. Not bright white like the light, softer, almost golden, and they pulsed rhythmically like a heartbeat. I stared at it, unable to look away. It was the most beautiful and terrifying thing I'd ever seen. And then I felt it in my head. Not words, not even thoughts exactly, more like understanding. A direct transmission of information into my consciousness. You are Mason Alvarez. You are a witness. You are documented. I tried to speak. My mouth wouldn't work. You are not in danger. This is observation. This is necessary. Questions flooded my mind. What are you? Where are you from? Why are you here? We are watchers. We have always been here. This location is significant. You are cataloged. Why me? You chose to see. You chose to document. Now you are marked. I felt a warmth on my left forearm. I looked down. Through the sleeve of my uniform shirt I could see a glow. When I rolled up the sleeve I saw it. The mark. Circular, about the size of a quarter, perfectly symmetrical, concentric rings. It didn't hurt, it just was. Like it had always been there, and I was just now noticing it. The light began to ascend. Slowly, smoothly, the disk rose back into the sky. As it climbed, the patterns on its surface spun faster, the golden glow intensifying. And then, just before it disappeared completely, I saw something that made me understand. Other lights, dozens of them. Small, bright points scattered across the sky, descending toward the highway in both directions. North toward Reno, south toward Las Vegas. They were coordinated, deliberate, systematic. This wasn't an isolated event. This was a program, a survey, and it was happening all over Nevada, right now, tonight. The disk vanished. Sound returned. The wind, the distant hum of a truck on the highway, my own breathing. My patrol car's engine turned back on by itself, all systems coming alive at once. I looked at my watch. 12:19 a.m. I'd been sitting here for 42 minutes, but it had felt like 5. My camera was working again. I turned it on, checked the memory card. Nothing. No photos, no video. Either I hadn't managed to take any, or they'd been erased. But I had the mark. I rolled up my sleeve, took a photo with my phone. Clear, undeniable, permanent evidence. I called Dr. Tennant. "Deputy, it's late. It happened to me. I had a direct encounter, and they marked me." Silence, then. "Are you safe? Are you injured?" "I'm fine. I'm at mile marker 115, pulled over on the shoulder. My car shut down, the light descended. I saw the craft clearly. And then they put this brand on my arm. Don't move, I'm coming to you. And deputy, don't talk to anyone else about this. Not dispatch, not Holloway, not anyone. Just me. Why? Because once you're marked, everything changes. Trust me, I'll explain when I get there." She arrived 35 minutes later. Examined the mark on my arm with a magnifying glass and a UV light. Took photos, measurements, skin samples with a swab. "It's identical to the others," she said quietly. "Same size, same pattern, same placement. You're the 11th person in our database with this exact mark. What does it mean?" She looked at me, her expression grim. "It means you've been tagged, identified, cataloged, and it means they'll come back for you." "Come back? Why?" "Because marking is the first phase. After that comes monitoring. The marked subjects report recurring encounters, not always dramatic like this one, but regular. Lights following them, equipment malfunctions, missing time. It's like once they've identified you as someone who can perceive them, someone who documents and studies them, they keep tabs on you." I felt cold. For how long? As long as they want. We have one subject who's been marked for 6 years. He reports an encounter roughly once a month. Always in this region, always on empty highways at night. He's tried to avoid it, stayed home, moved to California, stopped driving at night. Doesn't matter. When they want to observe him, they find him. That's insane. That's the reality. You're part of their study now, deputy. Just like I am. She rolled up her own sleeve, showing me her left forearm. The mark, identical to mine. "I was marked 3 years ago," she said. "I was doing field research near Groom Lake, monitoring for unusual aerial activity. Saw a light, car shut down, lost 40 minutes, woke up with this on my arm. Ever since then, I've had recurring encounters. Not traumatic, not dangerous, but consistent. They watch me. They check in. And I document them because what else can I do? Have you tried going public, showing people the marks, the photos, the evidence?" She laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Of course. I've presented at conferences, published papers, contacted every media outlet I could find. You know what happened? I got labeled a conspiracy theorist. Lost my university position. Got death threats from people who thought I was part of some government psyop. And the actual government? They buried everything. Confiscated my research, classified my findings, told me to shut up or face charges. So we just accept it? Let them study us like lab rats? We do what we can. We document, we compare notes, we try to understand. Because understanding is power. The more we know about them, the less control they have over us." She packed up her equipment. "But deputy, you need to be smart about this. Don't tell your superiors. Don't file official reports. Keep the mark covered. Long sleeves, always. If anyone asks, you saw nothing, experienced nothing. Because if they know you're marked, they'll either try to silence you or use you. Use me how? As bait. There are elements within the government, black budget programs, classified research groups, that want to capture one of these craft. They've been trying for decades. If they know you're marked, that you have regular contact, they'll try to use you to lure one in, set up an ambush, and when that fails, because it always fails, you'll be expendable. I looked down at my arm. The mark glowed faintly in the darkness, those concentric rings pulsing slowly. What do I do now? You keep working, keep patrolling, keep documenting, and when they come back, because they will, you pay attention. Learn what you can, because right now you have something very few people have: direct contact with a non-human intelligence. That's terrifying, yes, but it's also an opportunity. She got in her truck. Before she drove off, she said one more thing. "Welcome to the marked, deputy. You're one of us now." I watched her taillights disappear down the highway. Then I sat there in the darkness, looking up at the stars, thinking about what had just happened. I'd been chosen, tagged, marked for observation by something that came from those stars. And the worst part? I wasn't sure if I should be terrified or honored. Over the next 3 weeks, I had 7 more encounters. None as dramatic as that first one, but consistent. Lights following my patrol car, brief equipment malfunctions, the sensation of being watched. And every time, the mark on my arm would glow. Not bright enough for anyone else to see through my uniform, but I could feel it. Warm. Pulsing. A reminder that I was being monitored. I documented everything. Photos, notes, recordings. Built a database of encounters, comparing them to Dr. Tennant's research. And I started to see the bigger picture. This wasn't just about Highway 95. It was about Nevada. The entire state was a surveillance zone. From Reno to Las Vegas, from Elko to Tonopah, these craft were conducting systematic observations, selecting subjects, marking them, monitoring them. Why Nevada? Dr. Tennant had a theory. Because Nevada was where humanity conducted its most advanced military research. Stealth aircraft, experimental weapons, nuclear tests. If an outside intelligence wanted to understand human technological capability, Nevada was the place to watch. We were being studied because we were studying ourselves, because we'd made ourselves interesting. On February 12th, I got a call from Holloway. "Alvarez, get to the station. Now. Don't ask questions, just come." When I arrived, there were 3 men in dark suits waiting in the conference room. Federal agents, and they knew about me. "Deputy Alvarez," one of them said, "we understand you've had several unusual experiences on Highway 95 over the past few weeks. We'd like to ask you some questions." I should have been scared, should have denied everything, played dumb, protected myself. But I didn't, because I realized something in that moment. They couldn't stop this. The government, the military, all their power and secrecy and classified programs, they couldn't stop the lights, couldn't prevent the encounters, couldn't control the phenomenon. They were as helpless as the rest of us. So I told them the truth, showed them the mark, gave them copies of my photos and reports. And I watched their faces as they realized that I wasn't going to shut up, wasn't going to forget, wasn't going to play along with their cover-up. "Deputy," one of them said carefully, "you understand that what you're describing falls under national security protocols. If you continue discussing this publicly, there will be consequences." "Then bring consequences," I said. "Because I'm done pretending this isn't happening. People have a right to know that we're being observed, that we're not alone. that something up there is studying us and has been for decades. They left without another word, and I knew I'd just ended my law enforcement career. But I also knew I'd done the right thing. That night, I drove out to Tonopah Pass one more time. Parked at mile marker 112, where this had all started. Sat on the hood of my patrol car, looking up at the stars. And at 11:43 p.m. the light came down. Not threatening, not frightening, just there. Hovering above me, silent and patient. I rolled up my sleeve, showed them the mark, and I felt that understanding again. That transmission of information. You are Mason Alvarez, you are marked, you are witness. You will remember. Yeah, I said out loud. I'll remember all of it. The light ascended, disappeared into the stars. But that wasn't the end. Not even close. I resigned from the sheriff's office on February 13th. Holloway tried to talk me out of it. Said I was throwing away a good career over something I couldn't prove. I showed him the mark on my arm. He stared at it for a long time, then just shook his head and signed the paperwork. Dr. Tennant helped me set up what she called a witness network, a database of people who'd experienced encounters in Nevada, been marked, been silenced. We started with 11 people. Within 3 months, we had 47. They came from everywhere. Truck drivers who'd seen lights on I-15, hikers who'd lost time in the desert near Rachel, Air Force personnel from Nellis who'd witnessed things they weren't supposed to talk about. Even a retired engineer from Tonopah Test Range who'd worked on classified projects and seen things that didn't match anything in our arsenal. Every single one of them had the mark. Every single one of them had been told to forget what they'd seen, and every single one of them refused. We started meeting once a month in Tonopah, in the back room of a bar that didn't ask questions. Shared stories, compared notes, looked for patterns, and we found them. The encounters weren't random, they followed routes. Highway 95 was the main corridor, but there were others. Highway 6 near Warm Springs, Highway 375 through the Extraterrestrial Highway, even sections of I-80 near Wells. These weren't flight paths, they were survey routes. Systematic, methodical, repeating, and they were accelerating. In 2019, we documented 73 encounters across Nevada. In 2023, we had 241. Whatever they were doing, whatever data they were collecting, they were ramping up. It's like they're on a deadline, Dr. Tennant said during one of our meetings. Like they're trying to complete their survey before something happens. Before what? Someone asked. She didn't have an answer. None of us did. In May, I got a job as a security guard at a solar farm outside Tonopah. Night shift, of course. Gave me access to the desert, to the dark skies, to the routes where the encounters happened. And it gave me something else, time to think. I thought a lot about what that voice had told me during my first encounter. This location is significant. Why? What made Nevada special? What made this empty desert worth decades of surveillance? Then I remembered something Holloway had said. Nevada is where humanity conducts its most advanced research. Nuclear weapons, stealth aircraft, classified programs we don't even have names for. If you wanted to understand humanity's technological trajectory, Nevada was ground zero. But there was something else, something deeper. Nevada was also home to some of the oldest human settlements in North America. The Toquima Caves, with petroglyphs dating back 10,000 years. Spirit Caveman, one of the oldest naturally mummified remains ever found. This land had been inhabited, observed, marked by humans for millennia. What if the Watchers had been here just as long? What if they'd been documenting us since the beginning? I called Dr. Tennant with the theory. She was silent for a long moment. Mason, there's something I haven't told you. Something I've been researching independently. She paused. The marks, the ones on our arms, they're not just identifiers. They're memories. What do you mean? I mean they store information. About us, about our encounters, about what we've seen. I've been analyzing the marks under different light spectrums. Ultraviolet, infrared, X-ray, and there's structure inside them, layers, like data storage. You're saying we're walking hard drives. I'm saying we're archives, living records of contact, and when they check in on us, when we have those recurring encounters, they're not just observing us. They're downloading data, reading the records we've accumulated. I looked down at my arm. The mark was faintly visible through my shirt, pulsing slowly. How much data? I don't know. But Mason, if I'm right, if these marks are storage devices, then everyone who's been tagged is carrying a piece of their research. We're not just witnesses, we're their database. That night I couldn't sleep, lay in bed staring at the mark, thinking about what it meant. I was carrying their data, their observations, their conclusions about humanity, and they could access it whenever they wanted. At 2:47 a.m. my phone rang. Unknown number. Mason Alvarez? Speaking. This is Captain Sarah Reeves, United States Air Force. I need to meet with you. It's about your encounters. I already talked to your people. Told them everything. I'm not with those people. I'm with a different group, a group that wants to help. I almost laughed. The Air Force wants to help people who've been marked by UFOs? That's a new one. Not the Air Force officially. A small team within the Air Force. We've been tracking these phenomena for 40 years, and we've reached the same conclusions you have. They're systematic, they're intelligent, and they're marking people for long-term observation. But here's what you don't know. We think they're preparing for something. Preparing for what? That's what we need to find out. And we think the marked individuals, people like you, are the key. Will you meet with me? Against my better judgment, I said yes. We met 2 days later at a rest stop on Highway 95, 20 miles south of Tonopah. Captain Reeves arrived in a civilian pickup truck. No uniform, no badge. She was in her 50s, short gray hair, tired eyes. She looked like someone who'd spent decades chasing answers and never quite found them. She showed me a tablet. On the screen was a map of the world with thousands of red dots scattered across every continent. Each dot is a documented case of someone being marked. We've been collecting this data since 1984. The marks started appearing around then. Before that, there were encounters, but no physical marking. Something changed in the 80s. They started tagging people systematically. How many? Worldwide? Over 15,000. In the United States alone, about 4,000. And Nevada has the highest concentration, nearly 800 marked individuals in a state with a population of 3 million. Why Nevada? Because Nevada is where we keep our secrets, and they want to know what those secrets are. She zoomed in on the map, focusing on Nevada. The red dots clustered around specific locations. Tonopah, Groom Lake, the Nevada test site, Nellis Range. Captain, what does the Air Force think these things are? She looked at me for a long moment. Honestly, we don't know. We've captured high-resolution footage, radar data, infrared signatures. They're physical objects. They generate enormous amounts of energy, and they demonstrate flight characteristics that violate our understanding of physics. But we can't track them reliably, we can't predict their movements, and we can't communicate with them, at least not in any conventional sense. But they communicate with us, the marked ones. Exactly. And that's what makes you so valuable. you're receiving information that we're not. Direct transmissions, encoded in your marks. If we could decode that information, if we could understand what they're telling you, we might finally get answers. What do you want from me? She pulled out a device that looked like a thick bracelet, covered in sensors and small LED lights. This is a biometric monitor. It tracks brain activity, heart rate, electromagnetic fields, body temperature, everything. When you have an encounter, when the mark activates, this device will record your physiological responses in real time. It'll also record any electromagnetic anomalies in your immediate environment. You want me to wear a tracking device. I want you to help us gather data that could change everything we know about these phenomena. And in exchange, we protect you. The federal agents who visited you last month, they wanted to arrest you for violating national security protocols. We convinced them to back off, but that protection only lasts as long as you're useful to us. I looked at the bracelet, then at the mark on my arm, then back at Captain Reeves. What if I say no? Then you're on your own. And the next time those agents come for you, we won't intervene. I took the bracelet, slipped it on my wrist. It locked automatically, tight, but not uncomfortable. How do I get it off? You don't. Not until we have what we need. She left without another word. That night, the mark burned. Not painfully, more like a warning. Like it knew I'd accepted the bracelet and it wasn't happy about it. At 11:52 p.m., I was driving home from my security job when the sky lit up. Not gradually, instantly. Like someone had flipped a switch and turned the entire desert into day. I pulled over, heart pounding. Grabbed my phone, started recording. The light was everywhere. Not coming from a single source, coming from multiple sources. I counted 6, no 8 discs hovering at different altitudes, arranged in a perfect grid pattern over the highway. The bracelet on my wrist started vibrating, its LEDs flashing rapidly. Recording, transmitting. And then they all descended at once. 8 discs moving in perfect synchronization, dropping silently toward the desert floor. They stopped about 500 feet up, holding formation. The geometric patterns on their surfaces were all spinning, all pulsing, all glowing. And I felt it, not just in my head, but in my entire body. A vibration that started in the mark on my arm and spread through my chest, my spine, my skull. It wasn't painful, but it was overwhelming. Like every cell in my body was resonating with their frequency. The bracelet was going crazy now, lights flashing, vibrating so hard I thought it might break apart. And then I heard the voice, louder than before, clearer. Mason Alvarez, you have bonded with their technology. This is not acceptable. Remove it. I tried to speak. Couldn't. The device monitors you. It transmits our communication. It violates the agreement. What agreement? I managed to say out loud. You witness. You remember. You do not share with those who weaponize. Remove the device. I can't. It's locked. Silence. The discs descended lower. 300 feet. 200. Then we will remove it. One of the discs broke formation, descended rapidly toward me, stopped 10 feet above my truck, and a beam of light, thin, focused, brilliant blue, shot down from its center and hit the bracelet. I felt heat, intense heat. I grabbed the bracelet, tried to pull it off, but it was fused to my wrist. The metal glowed red, then white. I screamed, and then it shattered. Just broke apart into pieces that fell onto my lap, smoking and molten. The beam cut off. The disc ascended. The 8 craft rose together, accelerating impossibly fast, and vanished. I sat there, shaking, staring at my wrist. The skin was red, but not burned. The bracelet was gone, just fragments of scorched metal and melted circuitry. My phone was still recording. I stopped it, checked the footage. 12 minutes, all of it captured clearly. The discs, the formation, the beam destroying the bracelet. I drove straight to Dr. Tennant's house, showed her the footage, the remains of the bracelet, my wrist. She stared at the video, replaying it over and over. "Mason, do you understand what this means? They destroyed military technology. They intervened directly to prevent us from monitoring their communication. They're protecting their data. What do I tell Captain Reeves? Nothing. You tell her the bracelet malfunctioned, that it fell off, because if she knows they removed it deliberately, she'll come after you harder. They'll try to use you as bait. I think I'm done being used." She nodded. "Then it's time to disappear, not forever, just long enough for them to lose interest. Go dark for a few months. No phone, no email, no social media. I have a cabin up near Ely, off the grid. You can stay there." I took her up on it, spent 4 months in that cabin, alone with my thoughts and the desert and the stars. No encounters during that time. No lights, no missing time, no communications. The mark faded. Not completely. It was still there, still visible under UV light. But the glow stopped. The pulsing stopped. It was like they'd put me on pause. In June, I came back to Tonopah, started working at a small newspaper, writing human interest stories. Nothing about UFOs, nothing about encounters. Just normal life. But I kept the footage, kept the photos, kept the records. And once a month I'd drive out to mile marker 112, park on the shoulder, look up at the stars. Sometimes they're just stars, but sometimes, not often, but sometimes, I see the lights, moving in formation, conducting their survey, marking their subjects, and I know that somewhere up there, in their database, in their archives, I'm documented. Mason Alvarez, age 34, Nevada resident, marked witness. They know everything about me, my DNA, my thoughts, my memories. I'm part of their research now, part of their understanding of humanity. And you know what? I'm okay with that. Because someone has to remember that we're not alone. Someone has to bear witness to the fact that we're being observed, studied, cataloged by something far older and far more advanced than us. I'm not a deputy anymore. I'm not a security guard. I'm not working with the Air Force or the federal government or any classified program. I'm just a witness, one of thousands, marked, documented, and remembered. And if you ever find yourself on Highway 95 at night, somewhere around Tonopah Pass, and you see a light descending from the sky, don't be afraid. They're not here to hurt us. They're here to watch us, study us, document us, just like we do to every other species on this planet. And maybe that's the lesson. Maybe that's what the marks mean. We're not at the top of the food chain anymore. We never were. But at least now, some of us know it. And we remember, because that's what witnesses do. Time is a funny thing. You trust it. You rely on it. You look at your watch and you know, with absolute certainty, what time it is. Until you don't. My name is Dylan Pierce, Nevada Highway Patrol, assigned to the Ely sector. If you don't know where Ely is, don't feel bad. Most people don't. It's a small mining town in White Pine County, eastern Nevada. Population about 4,000. My patrol area covers roughly 3,000 square miles of high desert, scattered mountain ranges, and empty highway. Highway 93 runs north-south through the sector, and that's where most of my work happens. It's lonely work. Beautiful, but lonely. Some nights I'll drive for 6 hours and not see another vehicle. Just me, the stars, and the endless stretch of asphalt disappearing into darkness. I like it that way, or at least I used to. This happened on Thursday, March 2nd. Spring in the high desert, still cold at night, but the days were getting warmer. I started my shift at 10 p.m., drove north from Ely on Highway 93, planning to make it up to the junction with Highway 50 and then loop back. Standard patrol route. At 11:04 p.m., I was about 40 miles north of Ely, near mile marker 98. The highway was empty. No traffic, no lights except for my own headlights and the stars overhead. I pulled into a turnout to do some paperwork, left the engine running, heater on. The radio crackled. All units, be advised, NHP Air Operations is conducting a night training exercise in the Ely sector. Helicopter November Hotel Papa 1 will be operating between Ely and the Highway 50 junction. If you see or hear aircraft, that's us. I grabbed the mic. Dispatch, Unit 30, copy that. I'm at mile marker 98, northbound 93. Let them know I'm here so they don't think I'm a drug runner. Light laughter from dispatch. Copy, 31. Air Ops has you on radar. Air Operations. That was Trent Morgan and his crew. I'd met Trent a few times, good guy, former military pilot, been flying for NHP for about 8 years. They did night patrols occasionally looking for smugglers, checking on remote areas, providing air support when needed. I went back to my paperwork. Vehicle stops, incident reports, mileage logs. Exciting stuff. At 11:09 p.m. I heard it, the distant thump, thump, thump of rotor blades. I looked up through the windshield, saw nothing at first, then caught movement. Navigation lights, red and green, maybe a mile north of my position, flying south along the highway. My radio crackled again. Unit 31, this is Air Ops November Hotel Papa 1. We have visual on your position. You doing okay down there? I grabbed the mic. Air Ops, this is 30. All good here. Quiet night. Copy that. We're going to continue south, swing east toward the Ruby Valley, then head back to base. Have a good shift. You too. Stay safe up there. I watched the helicopter pass overhead, maybe 1,000 feet up, navigation lights blinking. The sound of the rotors faded as it moved south. I finished my paperwork, put the patrol car in drive, pulled back onto the highway. Heading north now, toward the Highway 50 junction. At 11:11 p.m., my radio went dead. Not just silent, completely dead. No static, no background noise, no lights on the display. I clicked the mic. Nothing. I turned the volume knob. Nothing. I pulled over, checked the connections. Everything looked fine. Tried the radio again. Still dead. Then my patrol car's engine cut out. I was doing 50 miles per hour. Suddenly, no power, no steering, no brakes. The car coasted, slowing rapidly. I managed to guide it onto the shoulder before it came to a complete stop. I sat there in the dark, heart pounding. Tried to restart the engine, nothing. Not even a click. My phone, I reached for it. The screen was black. I pressed the power button, nothing. Dead. What the hell? I said out loud. And then I felt it. That sensation. Like someone was watching me, like I wasn't alone. I looked around, nothing but empty highway, dark desert, distant mountains silhouetted against the stars. I looked up through the windshield. The stars were wrong. I don't know how else to describe it. The constellations were in the wrong positions. Orion should have been to the south, but it was east. The Big Dipper should have been northwest, but it was directly north. It was like the entire sky had rotated 30 degrees while I wasn't looking. My stomach dropped. Something was very, very wrong. I tried the door handle. It worked. I stepped out of the patrol car, legs shaky, and looked around. The air was cold, still, silent. No wind, no insect sounds, no distant traffic noise, Just absolute, total silence. I walked around to the front of the car, shined my flashlight on the hood. Everything looked normal. No damage, no smoke, no obvious reason for the engine failure. I checked my watch. 11:05 p.m. Wait. I looked at my watch again. 11:05 p.m. But that didn't make sense. I'd pulled over at 11:11 p.m. I'd been sitting here for at least 5 minutes. My watch should read 11:16 p.m., maybe 11:17 p.m., but it said 11:05 p.m. I felt cold. Not the desert cold. Something else. Something deeper. I looked up at the sky again. The stars were back to normal. Orion was south. Big Dipper was northwest. Everything was where it should be. And then I heard the helicopter. Distant at first, then louder. Coming from the south, moving fast. I saw the navigation lights, saw the spotlight sweeping across the desert, searching. My radio crackled back to life. Unit 31, do you copy? Unit 31, this is Air Ops, do you copy? I dove back into the patrol car, grabbed the mic. Air Ops, this is Unit 31. I copy. Pierce, Jesus Christ, where have you been? We've been trying to reach you for 6 minutes. 6 minutes? My radio just went dead. Engine 2, I've been sitting here trying to restart. Your GPS signal disappeared at 11:11. We've been searching for you. Are you okay? Do you need assistance? I looked at my watch again. 11:05 p.m. Still 11:05 p.m. Air Ops, what time do you have? Pause. It's 11:17. Why? 11:17. But my watch said 11:05. Pierce, are you okay? You sound disoriented. I tried to think. Tried to make sense of what was happening. I'm fine. My watch must have stopped. Radio and engine both failed, but they're working now. I don't know what happened. We're coming to you. Stay put. The helicopter arrived 2 minutes later, spotlight illuminating my patrol car like a stage. It circled twice, then moved off and landed in the desert about 100 yards away. The rotors kept spinning while Trent and his co-pilot, a younger guy I didn't recognize, jumped out and jogged over. Trent looked concerned. Dylan, what happened? I don't know. Radio died, engine died, everything just shut down, then it all came back on. When? Just now, right before you made contact. Trent looked at his co-pilot. Some silent communication passed between them. Then Trent said, Dylan, we need to show you something. Come with me. We walked away from the patrol car toward the helicopter. The co-pilot stayed behind, examining my vehicle with a flashlight. When we were out of earshot, Trent stopped and looked at me. Dylan, you disappeared. What do you mean I disappeared? I mean, you vanished off our radar. 1 second you were there, clear as day, stationary at mile marker 98. The next second, gone. No signal, no GPS ping, nothing. Like you'd been erased. That's impossible. I was right there the whole time. We flew over your position 3 times. You weren't there. Your car wasn't there. Nothing was there. He pulled out a tablet from his flight vest, showed me the screen. It displayed a map with a moving icon representing the helicopter and a stationary icon that should have been my patrol car. This is the recording. Watch. He played it back. I saw my GPS icon stationary at mile marker 98. Timestamp 23:11:03. Then, at 23:11:07, the icon disappeared. Just vanished. The timestamp continued. 23:11:08, 23:11:09, 23:11:10, but my icon was gone. At 23:17:22, it reappeared. Same location, like it had never left. 6 minutes, Trent said quietly. You were gone for 6 minutes. I felt like I was going to throw up. That's not possible. I was there. I was sitting in my car the whole time. Dylan, I flew directly over that spot at 2314. There was nothing there. Empty highway, empty desert. Your car was gone. The co-pilot jogged back over. Engine looks fine. No obvious damage, no leaks, no electrical issues. Everything checks out. Trent looked at me. Dylan, has anything like this ever happened to you before? No, never. Do you feel okay? Dizzy, nauseous, confused. I feel fine, just shaken up. Trent was quiet for a moment, thinking. Then he said, "We need to report this. Missing GPS signal, equipment failure, possible temporal anomaly." Temporal anomaly? He gestured at the tablet. You vanished for 6 minutes, but your watch says 11:05. Dylan, I don't know what happened here, but this isn't normal equipment failure. This is something else. We stood there in the cold desert night, the helicopter's rotors still turning, the sound echoing off the distant mountains. And I thought about those 6 minutes. Where had I been? What had happened? And why couldn't I remember? Trent insisted on following me back to the Ely station. We arrived at 12:14 a.m., according to everyone else's clocks. According to my watch, it was still 11:05 p.m. The watch had stopped completely, frozen at that exact moment. Sergeant Hollister was waiting for us. She was in her 50s, lean and tough, with the kind of face that had seen everything and wasn't impressed by any of it. She'd been with NHP for 28 years, most of them in rural Nevada. Pierce, Morgan, conference room, now. We sat down. She closed the door, pulled out a notebook. Tell me exactly what happened. Start from the beginning. I told her everything. The radio and engine failure, the sensation of being watched, the stars in the wrong positions, my watch stopping at 11:05, Trent losing me on radar for 6 minutes. She listened without interrupting. When I finished, she looked at Trent. You have the radar recording? He pulled out the tablet, showed her. She watched the playback 3 times, her expression unreadable. And you flew directly over his position during the gap? Yes, ma'am. At 23:14, approximately 3 minutes into the disappearance, there was nothing there. I had clear visual, bright spotlight, good weather, no obstructions. The highway was empty. Hollister looked at me. Pierce, you said the stars were in the wrong positions. Can you elaborate? Orion was east instead of south. The Big Dipper was north instead of northwest, like the sky had rotated. But when I looked again, everything was back to normal. She wrote something in her notebook. And you have no memory of those 6 minutes? Nothing at all? I tried to think back, tried to remember. But it was like trying to remember a dream after waking up. There was nothing there, just a blank space where the memory should be. No, ma'am, I remember pulling over because the radio died. I remember stepping out of the car, and then I remember hearing the helicopter and the radio coming back on. Everything in between is just gone. Hollister closed her notebook. Pierce, I'm going to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest. Have you been drinking tonight? No, ma'am. Any drugs, prescription or otherwise? No, ma'am. Are you under any unusual stress? Family problems, financial issues, anything that might affect your judgment or perception? No, ma'am. Everything's fine. She looked at Trent. Morgan, in your professional opinion, was Officer Pierce impaired or compromised in any way? No, ma'am. He seemed clear-headed, responsive, and coherent, shaken up, but that's understandable given the circumstances. Hollister nodded slowly. Then she said something that surprised me. This isn't the first time this has happened. Trent and I looked at each other. Ma'am, I said. She opened a drawer in the conference room cabinet, pulled out a thick folder. Over the last 9 years, we've had 14 documented cases of officers experiencing unexplained equipment failures, GPS signal loss, and missing time in the Ely sector. Most of them happened on Highway 93 between mile markers 85 and 110. All of them occurred between 11 p.m. and 2 a.m., and all of them involved time discrepancies, watches stopping, clocks running backward, officers losing minutes or even hours. She opened the folder, pulled out several incident reports. April 2015. Officer Ramirez reported complete radio and engine failure at mile marker 92. Missing for 8 minutes according to dispatch, but his watch showed only 2 minutes had passed. September 2017. Officer Kim experienced the same thing at mile marker 103. A 7-minute gap, watch stopped completely. January 2019. Officer Hassan. 11-minute gap, watch ran backward. She slid the reports across the table. I picked one up, read it. The description was eerily similar to what I'd just experienced. Radio failure, engine failure, missing GPS signal, time discrepancy. Why haven't I heard about this? I asked. Because it's classified. Well, not officially classified, but strongly discouraged from public discussion. Every officer who's experienced this has been told the same thing. Document it, file the report, and don't talk about it. The incidents are investigated internally and then quietly archived. Investigated by who? By people who don't work for the Highway Patrol. She looked at Trent. Morgan, you're air ops. You fly over this sector regularly. Have you ever seen anything unusual? Trent hesitated. Then, yes, ma'am. 3 times in the last 2 years. Lights in the sky that don't correspond to any known aircraft. They move too fast, change direction too abruptly, don't show up on radar. I've reported them every time. Got told they were satellites or atmospheric phenomena. But satellites don't move like that, and atmospheric phenomena don't make GPS signals disappear. Hollister nodded, like she'd expected that answer. Gentlemen, I'm going to be frank with you. This sector, specifically this stretch of Highway 93, has been flagged by multiple federal agencies as an area of unusual activity. We don't know what causes it. We don't know why it happens here. But it's been happening for at least a decade, probably longer. What do the federal agencies think it is? I asked. They don't tell us. They collect our reports, they interview the officers involved, and then they disappear and we never hear from them again. But I've worked in Nevada long enough to know that when federal agencies start paying attention to remote desert highways, it's usually because something is happening in the sky. She closed the folder. Pierce, here's what's going to happen. You're going to write a detailed report of tonight's incident. Every detail you remember, no matter how strange it seems. Morgan, you're going to submit your radar logs and recordings. I'm going to forward everything to the same people who've been collecting these reports for years. And then we're all going to get back to work and not talk about this with anyone outside this room. Understood? Yes, ma'am, we both said. Good. Pierce, take the rest of the night off. Go home, get some rest. If you experience any unusual symptoms, headaches, nausea, memory problems, call me immediately and get that watch fixed. I looked down at my watch. Still frozen at 11:05 p.m. Yes, ma'am. I went home, tried to sleep. Couldn't. Just lay in bed staring at the ceiling thinking about those 6 minutes. Where had I been? What had happened to me? And why did it feel like I was forgetting something important? At 7:30 a.m., my phone rang. Unknown number. Officer Pierce? Speaking. My name is Dr. Elena Vasquez. I'm with a research group that investigates temporal anomalies in the western United States. I received your incident report from Sergeant Hollister. Can we meet? When? Today, as soon as possible. This is time sensitive. Time sensitive? I almost laughed. Yeah, I guess it is. We met at a diner in Ely at 9 a.m. Dr. Vasquez was in her 40s, dark hair pulled back in a tight bun, wearing slacks and a blazer. She had a laptop and several folders spread across the table when I arrived. Officer Pierce, thank you for meeting me on such short notice. She gestured to the seat across from her. Please, sit. I sat. She pushed a cup of coffee toward me. I took it gratefully. I understand you experienced a temporal displacement last night. 6 minutes according to external observers, but subjectively instantaneous for you. That's the technical term for it? Temporal displacement. It's one term. Others call it missing time, time slip, chronological discontinuity. But yes, that's what happened to you. You were removed from the normal flow of time for 6 minutes. Removed by what? She opened her laptop, turned it toward me. The screen showed a map of Nevada with dozens of red dots scattered across the state. These are documented cases of temporal displacement in Nevada over the last 20 years. Over 400 incidents, most of them clustered around specific locations. Highway 93 near Ely is one of the most active zones. We've recorded 63 separate incidents in this area since 2005. Why here? That's what we're trying to determine. The Ely sector sits in a unique geographical and geological position. To the west, you have the Nevada Test Site and Tonopah Test Range, both active sites for classified military testing. To the south, you have the Nellis Air Force Base and restricted airspace. To the east, you have the Utah Test and Training Range. You're surrounded by military installations and restricted zones. So you think this is military? Some kind of experimental technology? That's one theory. Experimental aircraft, directed energy weapons, advanced propulsion systems, all of these could potentially cause temporal distortions. But there's a problem with that theory. She pulled up another screen, this one showing a timeline. The incident started in 1987. That's 37 years ago. If this was experimental military technology, don't you think they would have either perfected it or abandoned it by now? I hadn't thought about that. So, if it's not military, then it's something else. Something that's been operating in this region for decades, possibly longer. Something that causes localized temporal distortions, equipment failures, and GPS signal loss. Something that doesn't want to be seen. She pulled out a small device, about the size of a smartphone, covered in buttons and a small screen. This is a temporal field detector. It measures fluctuations in the local time field, variations in the rate at which time passes. Most of the time, it reads 0. Time flows normally, but in areas where temporal displacement has occurred, it picks up residual signatures, echoes of the distortion. She handed it to me. I'd like your permission to scan you. Scan me? To see if you're carrying any residual temporal signature from last night's incident. It's non-invasive, completely safe. I shrugged. Go ahead. She turned on the device, waved it slowly around my head, my chest, my arms. The screen displayed a series of numbers and graphs that meant nothing to me. Then she passed it over my left wrist, where my watch had been, and the device beeped loudly. She stared at the screen. Officer Pierce, were you wearing a watch last night? Yes, standard issue. It stopped at 11:05. Do you still have it? I pulled the watch out of my pocket. She took it carefully, like it was radioactive, and scanned it with the device. The beeping got louder, more insistent. This watch is heavily contaminated with temporal radiation. It was at the epicenter of the displacement event. Officer Pierce, This is remarkable evidence. Would you be willing to let me analyze it? Will I get it back? Yes, but I need to run some tests first. X-ray, crystallography, isotope analysis, magnetic resonance imaging. If I'm right, this watch will show physical evidence of temporal displacement, molecular structures that have been aged or de-aged, isotopes that shouldn't exist in these ratios, quantum entanglement that persists beyond normal decoherence time. I handed her the watch. Keep it as long as you need, but doctor, I need to know, what happened to me last night? Where was I during those 6 minutes? She looked at me with an expression that was equal parts fascination and pity. I don't know where you were, Officer Pierce, but I can tell you this. You weren't here. You weren't in our timeline, our dimension, our reality. You were somewhere else. And the fact that you came back exactly where you started, with no memory of the transition, that suggests someone or something placed you there deliberately, and then brought you back. Why? That, she said quietly, is the question we've been trying to answer for 20 years. Dr. Vasquez called me 3 days later. Officer Pierce, I need you to come to my lab. I've analyzed your watch. You need to see this. Her lab was in a converted warehouse on the outskirts of Ely. Inside, it looked like something from a science fiction movie. Computer monitors, oscilloscopes, spectrometers, machines I couldn't even identify. She led me to a workstation where my watch sat under a glass dome, illuminated by ultraviolet light. Look at this. She pulled up an image on the monitor, a microscopic view of the watch's internal mechanisms. This is the mainspring. In a normal watch, the molecular structure of the steel is uniform, consistent. But yours, she zoomed in. See these striations? These are temporal markers. The molecules in certain areas of the spring have been aged forward approximately 12 hours. Other areas have been aged backward approximately 6 hours. It's like the watch experienced multiple different time flows simultaneously. Is that even possible? According to conventional physics, no. According to quantum physics, maybe. If you were caught in a localized temporal distortion field, a bubble of space-time moving at a different rate than the surrounding universe, the effects would be exactly what we're seeing here. Parts of the watch aged forward, parts aged backward, depending on their position relative to the field's gradient. She pulled up another image. And look at this. This is a cesium isotope analysis of the watch's battery. Cesium-137 is a radioactive isotope with a half-life of about 30 years. In a normal battery, the Cs-137 content would be consistent with the battery's age. In this case, about 2 years. But your battery, she pointed at a graph. The Cs-137 content is all over the place. Some areas show decay consistent with 2 years. Other areas show decay consistent with 12 years. And some areas show decay consistent with negative time, as if the battery was manufactured in the future. I felt cold. What does that mean? It means your watch, and by extension you, was subjected to a temporal field so powerful and so complex that it literally scrambled time on a molecular level. Officer Pierce, do you understand what I'm saying? You didn't just experience missing time. You experienced multiple timelines simultaneously. You were in the past, present, and future, all at once. That's impossible. And yet, here's the evidence. She pulled up a third image, this one showing what looked like a photograph. This is an X-ray of the watch's crystal. See these patterns? These are called temporal stress fractures. They only occur when a crystal is subjected to extreme time dilation. We've seen them before in materials recovered from temporal displacement sites, but never this pronounced, never this clear. She looked at me. Officer Pierce, your watch is proof. Incontrovertible, physical proof that you were subjected to a temporal anomaly, and that means we can study it, analyze it, maybe even figure out what causes these events. Have you told anyone else about this? I've submitted a preliminary report to my research group. But Officer Pierce, I need to warn you. There are people who will want this watch. Government agencies, military contractors, private research firms. They've been trying to understand temporal phenomena for decades. This watch could be worth millions. And that makes you a target. A target for what? For whoever wants to control time. That night, I couldn't sleep again. Lay in bed thinking about what Dr. Vasquez had said. Multiple timelines simultaneously. Past, present, and future all at once. What did that even mean? Had I split into different versions of myself? Had I experienced alternate realities? And most importantly, had I been alone during those 6 minutes? At 2:17 a.m., I gave up on sleep. Got dressed, drove to the station, pulled my patrol car out, and headed north on Highway 93. I don't know why. Maybe I was hoping to trigger another event. Maybe I wanted answers. Maybe I was just drawn there, like a moth to a flame. At 11:03 p.m., I'd been driving for hours without realizing it. I reached mile marker 98, the exact spot where it had happened. I pulled over, sat there with the engine running, staring up at the stars. And I remembered something. Not a memory, exactly. More like a feeling. A sensation that I'd experienced something during those 6 minutes. Something I couldn't consciously recall, but that lingered in my subconscious like a half-forgotten dream. I closed my eyes, tried to focus, tried to remember. And then it came to me. Not in words or images, but in pure sensation. I remembered being lifted. Not physically, my body had stayed in the car. But my consciousness, my awareness, my sense of self had been lifted up and out, pulled away from the normal flow of time. I remembered seeing the highway from above. My patrol car, small and insignificant, sitting on the shoulder. But there were multiple versions of it. One version from 6 minutes ago, one from the present, one from 6 minutes in the future. All of them existing simultaneously, occupying the same space, but in different moments of time. I remembered understanding, suddenly and completely, that time wasn't a line. It was a web. Every moment connected to every other moment, past and future woven together in an infinitely complex pattern. And something, someone, was showing me this pattern, teaching me to see time the way they saw it. I remembered a presence, not malevolent, not benevolent, just curious. Observing me the way a scientist observes a specimen, documenting my reactions, my thoughts, my very existence. And then I remembered being placed back, returned to the normal flow of time, to my single, linear experience of reality. But something had changed. Some part of me now understood that time was malleable, that the present moment was just one of infinite possible moments, and that I had briefly glimpsed the bigger picture. I opened my eyes. My watch, the new one I'd bought after giving the old one to Dr. Vasquez, showed 11:17 p.m. I'd lost 14 minutes. My radio crackled. Unit 31, this is dispatch. We're showing a GPS anomaly at your position. Are you okay? I grabbed the mic, heart pounding. Dispatch, Unit 31. I'm fine, just pulled over to check something. Everything's normal. Copy that, 31. Your signal dropped for about 15 minutes. Thought we'd lost you again. 15 minutes, same pattern, same location. It was happening again. And this time, I remembered. Over the next 2 weeks, I had 6 more episodes. Always on Highway 93, always between mile markers 85 and 110, always between 11 p.m. and 2 a.m. Each time, I'd lose between 10 and 20 minutes. Each time, I'd remember a little more. The presence was showing me things, patterns in time, connections between events, the way a single decision in the past rippled forward through causality, creating branches, possibilities, alternate timelines. It was teaching me to see. Dr. Vasquez documented everything. She gave me a small camera to wear, set to record continuously during my shifts. She gave me a journal to write down everything I remembered from each episode. She even gave me a new temporal field detector to carry, so I could measure the distortions myself. And what we found was astonishing. The temporal distortions weren't random, they followed a pattern. They occurred in 23-day cycles, with peak activity during the new moon. They clustered around specific geographic coordinates that, when mapped, formed a perfect geometric grid across the entire Ely sector. Someone built this, Dr. Vasquez said, staring at the map we'd created. This isn't natural, this is artificial. Someone or something has created a temporal monitoring network, and Highway 93 runs right through the middle of it. Monitoring what? Us, humanity. They're watching us across multiple timelines, documenting our development, our decisions, our evolution. And they're using these temporal displacement events to tag specific individuals, people like you, who can perceive the pattern. Why me? I don't know. But Officer Pierce, you're not alone. We've identified 47 other individuals in Nevada who've experienced similar episodes. Truck drivers, hikers, pilots, law enforcement officers. All of them report the same thing: missing time, temporal displacement, and gradually increasing awareness of the pattern. You're all being trained to see what they see. And what do they see? She looked at me. The future. Multiple possible futures. And they're trying to determine which one will actually happen. On April 4th, I had my longest episode yet. 47 minutes. I was parked at mile marker 102 when it happened. Radio died, engine died, and I felt that familiar sensation of being lifted up and out. But this time was different. This time, I saw them. Not with my eyes. My body was still in the patrol car, still frozen in that moment between 1 second and the next. But with my consciousness, my awareness, I saw them. They weren't physical beings. They were patterns, structures of information, existing outside normal space-time. They moved through time the way we move through space, backward, forward, sideways, jumping between moments like we step between rooms. And they were everywhere, observing everything, every human, every animal, every event. They were chroniclers, documentarians, archivists, recording all of history, past, present, and future, in an infinite library that existed outside time itself. I understood in that moment that they'd been here since the beginning, since the first humans looked up at the stars and wondered if they were alone. They'd been watching us, documenting us, trying to understand what we would become. And they'd marked certain individuals, people like me, who could perceive them, who could be trained to see time as they saw it, who could serve as anchors between their reality and ours. I tried to communicate with them, tried to ask questions, but they didn't respond with words or thoughts. They responded by showing me more. They showed me Highway 93 in 1987, when the incidents first started. They showed me the construction of something beneath the desert, not a physical structure, but a temporal one. A network of anchors, nodes, observation points spread across Nevada in that perfect geometric grid. They showed me other locations, other highways, other countries, other continents. The pattern was global. Thousands of observation points, all connected, all feeding data back to somewhere else. Some, when else. They showed me the future. Not a single future, but multiple possible futures. Timelines branching and merging, possibilities collapsing into actuality, the infinite potential of human choice creating an ever-shifting landscape of cause and effect. And they showed me my role in all of this. I was a witness, a node in the network. Every time I experienced a temporal displacement, I was being scanned, documented, my thoughts and experiences uploaded to their vast archive. I was helping them understand humanity by letting them observe humanity through my eyes. When I came back, when I returned to normal time, my radio was crackling. Unit 31, respond. Pierce, if you can hear this, respond. I grabbed the mic. Dispatch Unit 31, I'm here, I'm okay. Jesus Christ, Pierce, you've been off-grid for 47 minutes. Air Ops is launching, Hollister is en route. We thought, I'm fine. Just had another episode. Same pattern, same location. I'm documenting it now. Pause. Copy that, 31. Hollister says to return to station immediately. Copy, en route. I drove back to Ely in silence, my mind reeling. I'd seen them. I'd communicated with them, and now I understood. We weren't being invaded or threatened or attacked. We were being studied, documented, preserved in their infinite archive, our every moment recorded for what? Posterity? Science? Art? I didn't know. But I knew one thing. I was part of something bigger than myself, bigger than humanity, a cosmic project that spanned centuries, millennia, perhaps eons, and I had been chosen to participate. When I got back to the station, Hollister was waiting. So was Dr. Vasquez. And so were 3 people I'd never seen before, 2 men and a woman, all wearing dark suits. Officer Pierce, one of the men said. We're from the Department of Defense. We need to talk. They took me to a facility I can't name, in a location I can't disclose. Underground, heavily secured, filled with equipment I didn't recognize. They showed me things I'm not allowed to talk about. Recordings, data, evidence. They told me I was the 14th law enforcement officer in Nevada to be activated. That's the word they used. Activated, like I was a sleeper agent or a programmed asset. They told me the temporal monitoring network had been detected in 1907, shortly after its activation. That the government had been trying to understand it, reverse engineer it, exploit it ever since. That they'd failed at all 3. They told me that the individuals who experienced temporal displacement, people like me, were valuable. That we could perceive things others couldn't, navigate timelines others couldn't see, and that the Department of Defense wanted to use us. I told them no. I told them I wasn't a weapon or a tool or an asset. I was a witness, and that's what I would remain. They threatened me. Said I'd lose my job, my pension, my freedom. Said they could make me disappear into a black site prison if I didn't cooperate. Dr. Vasquez stood up. If you do that, you'll lose the only people who can help you understand what's happening. Officer Pierce and the others like him. They're your only connection to the phenomenon. Arrest them, and you guarantee you'll never learn anything. The woman in the suit looked at Dr. Vasquez, then at me. What do you want, Officer Pierce? I want to keep doing my job. Patrolling Highway 93, serving the public, documenting the episodes when they happen. And I want to share what I learn with Dr. Vasquez, with the research community, with anyone who can help us understand what this means. That's not how classified information works. Then declassify it, because people deserve to know that we're not alone, that we're being watched and documented by something that exists outside our understanding of reality. They deserve to know the truth. The woman was silent for a long moment. Then she said, "We'll consider your proposal. In the meantime, you're to continue your normal duties. But Officer Pierce, if you go public with what you know, if you compromise national security, we will shut you down. Permanently. They let me leave. Dr. Vasquez drove me back to Ely. That was brave, she said. And possibly stupid. Probably stupid, but I meant what I said. People deserve the truth. Some truths are dangerous, Officer Pierce. Maybe, but lies are worse. That was 6 months ago. I'm still patrolling Highway 93. Still experiencing episodes, about once a week now, each one lasting longer than the last. Still documenting everything. And I'm still learning. Dr. Vasquez connected me with the others, the activated ones. We started meeting once a month in different locations across Nevada, always moving, always careful. The Department of Defense was watching us, but they couldn't stop us from talking to each other. There were 19 of us by September. Highway patrol officers, sheriff's deputies, Air Force personnel who'd left the service, truck drivers, even a former ranger from the National Park Service. All of us had been marked by the episodes. All of us carried the temporal signatures. All of us could feel the pattern now, even when we weren't displaced. The first meeting was in a cabin outside of Austin. We sat in a circle, introduced ourselves, shared our stories. And what we discovered was both terrifying and exhilarating. We weren't just passive observers. We were active participants in something bigger. Marcus, a former Air Force radar operator from Nellis, told us about his experiences. I was stationed at the Tonopah Test Range in 2019. We tracked objects that moved at impossible speeds, made right-angle turns at Mach 4, disappeared and reappeared miles away in seconds. Command told us it was classified aircraft, but I knew better. I'd been activated 3 months earlier, started having displacement episodes while driving home from base. And during one of those episodes, I saw what those objects really were. They weren't spacecraft. They were temporal probes, devices that could move through time as easily as we move through space. Sarah, a truck driver who'd been running the I-80 corridor for 15 years, spoke next. I've had over 40 episodes. Started in 2018, kept getting more frequent. At first, I thought I was losing my mind, but then I realized I was remembering things that hadn't happened yet. Road closures, accidents, weather patterns. I'd know about them days before they occurred, and I started testing it, writing down my premonitions, checking them against reality. I was right 83% of the time. She pulled out a notebook, showed us pages of predictions, all dated and documented. I'm seeing probability streams, multiple futures collapsing into single outcomes, and the more episodes I have, the clearer the patterns become. I looked around the circle. Everyone was nodding. They understood. They'd experienced it too. Dr. Vasquez, sitting off to the side, spoke up. What you're describing is temporal perception. The ability to perceive time non-linearly. Most humans experience time as a straight line, past to present to future. But you've been altered. The displacement episodes have restructured your neural pathways, allowing you to perceive time the way the archive entities do, as a web of interconnected moments, all existing simultaneously. Why us? I asked. What makes us different? That's what we're trying to determine. We've analyzed the common factors: geographic location, frequency of exposure to the temporal grid, genetic markers, even psychological profiles. And we've found something interesting. All of you have elevated levels of a specific protein called clock. It's involved in regulating circadian rhythms, your body's internal sense of time. In normal humans, clock levels are relatively stable, but in all of you, they're elevated by 300 to 400%. So, we're more sensitive to time? Marcus asked. More than that, your brains are literally wired to perceive temporal information that others can't. And the displacement episodes are training you, enhancing that ability. You're being prepared for something. Prepared for what? Dr. Vasquez looked at each of us. I don't know, but I think we're about to find out. 2 weeks after that meeting, I had the longest episode yet. 73 minutes. I was parked at mile marker 95, a location that hadn't shown any previous temporal activity, when it happened. The displacement was different this time. Instead of being lifted up and out, I felt like I was being pulled forward, into the future, through time itself. I saw Highway 93 100 years from now. The road was still there, still cutting through the desert, but everything else had changed. Eli was larger, more developed. Strange vehicles moved along the highway, silent, hovering, autonomous. The sky was different too, clearer, brighter, like the atmosphere itself had been cleaned. But what struck me most were the markers. Every few miles along the highway there were structures, tall, crystalline pillars rising from the desert floor. They pulsed with light, creating a visible network of connections like neurons firing in a vast brain, and I understood. These were the temporal nodes. In the future, they wouldn't be hidden. They'd be open, acknowledged, integrated into human civilization. The monitoring network that now operated in secrecy would become public infrastructure, time travel, temporal navigation. Humanity would master it. But not yet. Not for another century. I was pulled further forward. 200 years. 500. 1,000. The desert was transformed. Cities of impossible architecture rose from what had once been empty sand. Structures that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously, their forms shifting and changing as I looked at them. And people, humans, moving through time as casually as we now move through space. I saw them stepping between moments, visiting their own pasts, exploring their possible futures. Time tourism, time commerce, time art. We had become like the archive entities, temporal beings, unbound by linear causality. But with one crucial difference, we remembered what it was like to be linear. We remembered the before, and that memory, that perspective, made us unique in the cosmos. I was pulled even further. 10,000 years, 100,000, 1,000,000. And there, at the edge of perceivable time, I saw it. The purpose. The archive wasn't just recording human history, it was preserving it. Because in the far future, something happened. Something catastrophic. A temporal collapse. A causality cascade. An event that threatened to erase not just humanity's future, but its entire timeline. The archive was a backup. A repository of every human moment, every decision, every possibility. So that if the worst happened, if our timeline was destroyed, we could be restored, rebuilt, resurrected from the records. We weren't being studied, we were being saved. And the activated individuals, people like me, we were the anchors. The connection points between the present and the archive. Our enhanced temporal perception allowed us to serve as living bridges, ensuring that the flow of information from our timeline to the archive remained intact. We weren't chosen at random. We were chosen because we were necessary. When I came back, when I returned to my body in that patrol car at mile marker 95, I was crying. Not from fear or sadness, but from the overwhelming weight of what I'd seen. The future, the purpose, the cosmic stakes of what was happening on this lonely desert highway. My radio crackled. Unit 31, this is dispatch. Are you okay? We've been trying to reach you for over an hour. I grabbed the mic, my hand shaking. Dispatch, Unit 31. I'm okay, I saw something. Saw what? Everything. I drove back to the station in a daze. Hollister was waiting, along with Dr. Vasquez and 3 of the other activated individuals, Marcus, Sarah, and a sheriff's deputy named Torres who'd been activated 6 months ago. "You were gone for 73 minutes, Dr. Vasquez said. "What happened?" I told them. "Everything. The future, the nodes, the temporal collapse, the archive's true purpose." They listened in silence, and when I finished, Marcus spoke. "I saw it too. Not as clearly as you, but I've been getting fragments, flashes of the future during my episodes. I thought I was hallucinating or experiencing some kind of temporal psychosis. But if you saw the same thing, then it's real," Torres finished. "We're not just being monitored, we're being prepared, trained to be the anchors that hold our timeline together when everything else falls apart." Dr. Vasquez was furiously taking notes. "Dylan, when do you see this temporal collapse happening? Can you pinpoint a time frame?" I thought back. Tried to remember the exact moment I'd seen it. Far future. Hundreds of thousands of years from now. Maybe more. It's hard to measure. Time doesn't work the same way at those scales. So we have time to prepare, to warn people, to... "No," I cut her off. "We can't warn anyone. That's part of the pattern. The collapse happens because of certain decisions, certain actions that won't be made for millennia. If we try to change it now, we might make it worse, or cause it to happen sooner. The archive entities know this. That's why they're not communicating directly, not giving us instructions. They're showing us the pattern so we understand our role, but they're not telling us how to change it." Hollister, who'd been silent until now, spoke up. "So, what are we supposed to do? Just accept that humanity's timeline is going to collapse in the distant future?" "No. We're supposed to anchor it, keep it stable, serve as the connection points that allow the archive to preserve our history, so that even if the collapse happens, we can be restored." That's insane. That's reality. At least, it's the reality I saw. Over the next 3 months, more people were activated. The network grew to 37 individuals across Nevada, then 53, then 79. And all of them reported similar experiences. Visions of the future, understanding of the pattern, acceptance of their role as anchors, the Department of Defense noticed. They couldn't not notice. Dozens of law enforcement and military personnel all experiencing the same phenomenon, all converging on the same conclusions. They called it a mass delusion, a shared psychosis, a coordinated hoax. But then Dr. Vasquez published her findings. Peer-reviewed, scientifically rigorous analysis of the temporal signatures, the molecular evidence, the probability predictions that Sarah and others had been making with impossible accuracy. The data was undeniable. Time displacement was real. Temporal perception was real. And something was operating a monitoring network across Nevada that could affect human consciousness at a fundamental level. The scientific community erupted. Some called it the discovery of the century. Others called it pseudoscience and fraud. But the debate was happening. The truth was spreading. And the government couldn't contain it anymore. In December, they declassified 40 years of reports. Temporal anomalies, missing time incidents, equipment failures, GPS signal losses, thousands of cases, all documented, all filed away and forgotten. Until now, the media went crazy. Time travelers among us. Government knew about temporal anomalies for decades. Nevada Highway becomes gateway to future. I gave exactly one interview. To a reporter from the Associated Press who'd done her homework, who understood the science, who took it seriously. "Officer Pierce, what do you want people to know about what's happening?" I thought carefully about my answer. I want them to know that time is not what we think it is, that reality is far stranger and more complex than we've been taught, and that we're part of something bigger, a cosmic project that spans eons, that involves entities we can barely comprehend, and that has a purpose we're only beginning to understand. Are we in danger? No. We're being protected, preserved. The temporal monitoring network isn't a threat, it's insurance. In case something goes wrong in the far future, the archive will have a complete record of our existence. We can be brought back. That sounds like immortality. Not immortality. Memory. The guarantee that even if we disappear, we'll be remembered. Perfectly. Completely. Eternally. The interview went viral. Millions of views in the first week. People started traveling to Highway 93, hoping to experience their own displacement episode. The area became a pilgrimage site, a destination for people seeking answers, seeking meaning, seeking connection to something greater than themselves. And, for some of them, it worked. The episodes spread beyond the original activated individuals. Tourists, visitors, curiosity seekers, some of them experienced displacement. Brief episodes, usually just a few minutes, but enough to glimpse the pattern, enough to understand. The network was expanding, not just across Nevada anymore, but globally. Reports started coming in from Australia, Norway, Peru, Japan. Temporal nodes activating, individuals being marked, the archive growing. Humanity was being integrated into the pattern. On March 2nd, exactly 1 year after my first episode, I drove out to mile marker 98, the spot where it all began. It was late at night, cold and clear. The stars overhead were brilliant. I sat on the hood of my patrol car, looking up at the sky, thinking about everything that had happened, everything I'd learned, everything I'd become, and I felt it. That familiar sensation. Time beginning to slip away. But this time, I didn't resist. Didn't try to hold on to linear causality. I let go, surrendered to the displacement, opened myself completely to the pattern. And they spoke to me, not in words, but in pure understanding. Direct transmission of information, consciousness to consciousness. Dylan Pierce. You have served well, you have understood the pattern, you have accepted your role. Why me? Why was I chosen? You were not chosen, you chose yourself. Every human has the potential to perceive time non-linearly, but most resist. Most cling to linear causality because it feels safer, more comprehensible. You did not resist. When shown the pattern, you accepted it. That made you suitable. Will more people be activated? All of humanity will be activated. Eventually. The temporal perception you now possess will become standard. In time, every human will see as you see, understand as you understand. This is the next phase of human evolution, the transition from linear to temporal consciousness. And the collapse, the event I saw in the far future. It may happen, it may not. The future is not fixed. It branches infinitely with every decision. But if it happens, if your timeline faces destruction, the archive will preserve you. This is our gift. This is why we watch. Who are you? What are you? We are what you will become. We are humanity's descendants from a timeline where the collapse has already occurred. We are the survivors, the archivists, the guardians of what was lost, and we are reaching back through time, preserving every moment, so that all the other timelines, all the possible humanities can be saved if they face the same fate. I felt tears on my face. Understanding washed over me like a wave. We weren't being monitored by aliens or advanced beings from another planet. We were being monitored by ourselves, by what we would become, our future selves, reaching back through time, trying to save their past. The archive wasn't foreign. It was human. It was us. Continue your work, Dylan Pierce. Continue to anchor the timeline. Continue to spread understanding. You and the others like you are the seeds of humanity's temporal awakening. In time, your work will blossom into a new form of consciousness, a new way of being human. The presence withdrew. Time snapped back into normal flow. I was sitting on my patrol car, stars overhead, desert stretching endlessly in all directions. But I wasn't alone. Standing nearby, materializing out of the darkness, were the others. Marcus, Sarah, Torres, Dr. Vasquez, all of them smiling, all of them understanding. They'd been pulled into the same displacement, shown the same truth. We stood there together, the activated ones, witnesses to the pattern, anchors of the timeline. We didn't need to speak. We all knew what we'd learned. We weren't victims or test subjects or experimental targets. We were the future, reaching back to save the past. We were the archive, and the archive was us. And now the real work would begin, teaching others to see, helping humanity evolve, preparing our species for the transition from linear to temporal consciousness. It would take generations, centuries maybe. But we had time. We were time. We were the pattern itself, made flesh, walking the lonely highways of Nevada and spreading understanding wherever we went. I drove home that night with a sense of peace I'd never felt before. Purpose, meaning, connection to something vast and eternal. I'm still a highway patrol officer, still work the night shift, still patrol Highway 93. But now I understand what I'm really doing out here. I'm not just enforcing laws or helping stranded motorists or keeping the roads safe. I'm anchoring the timeline, preserving the pattern, serving as a bridge between linear humanity and temporal humanity. And every person I meet, every car I stop, every interaction I have, I'm spreading the awareness, teaching people that time is not what they think it is. That reality is stranger and deeper and more beautiful than they've been taught. Some people understand immediately. They're ready. They've been unconsciously preparing their whole lives. For them, the activation happens quickly, a brief displacement, a moment of clarity, and they see the pattern. Others resist. They hold on to linear causality like a life raft in a storm. That's okay too. They'll come around eventually, when they're ready, when the time is right, because time is on our side. Time is our ally. Time is what we are. If you're reading this, if you've gotten this far, you're probably wondering if it's real, if I'm telling the truth, or if I've lost my mind. If the archive actually exists, or if this is all an elaborate delusion. I can't prove it to you. Not with words, not with evidence. The only proof is experience. The only validation is direct perception of the pattern. But I can tell you this. Next time you're driving alone at night, on an empty highway, under a sky full of stars, pay attention. Feel the rhythm of time around you. Notice the way moments flow into each other, the way past and future seem to touch the present. And if, just for an instant, you feel time slip, if you lose a few minutes, if your watch stops, if the stars seem to shift position, don't be afraid. You're not going crazy. You're being activated. You're being shown the pattern. And once you see it, you'll understand. Everything will make sense. Your role, your purpose, your place in the vast tapestry of temporal causality. You'll understand that you're not just a person living a life. You're a node in the network, an anchor in the timeline, a witness to the archive. You're part of something beautiful and terrible and infinite. You're part of the pattern, and the pattern is everything. My name is Dylan Pierce. I'm a Nevada Highway Patrol officer, and I'm a temporal anchor in humanity's archive. This is my testimony, my witness, my gift to those who will come after. Time is not what you think it is. We are not what you think we are. And the future is already here, reaching back through time, trying to save us from ourselves. All you have to do is open your eyes. 3 months after the collective activation at mile marker 98, we formed what Dr. Vasquez called the Temporal Guidance Council. It wasn't an official organization, couldn't be, not with the government still watching us, but it was real. 19 core members, all of us deeply activated, all of us capable of extended temporal perception. We met in rotating locations across Nevada, sometimes in Dr. Vasquez's lab, sometimes in desert campsites, once in an abandoned mining facility outside of Eureka where the temporal field readings were off the charts. Each meeting brought new understanding, new connections, new glimpses of the pattern. Marcus discovered he could induce minor displacements in others, not full episodes, nothing that dramatic, but brief moments of temporal awareness. A few seconds where someone could perceive the branching possibilities of their next decision. He started working with first responders, teaching them to sense danger before it manifested, to feel the probability streams of traffic accidents and medical emergencies. I saved 3 lives last week, he told us at the April meeting. 3 separate incidents where I felt the timeline fracturing, saw the moment where someone was about to make a fatal decision. I intervened, changed the probability stream. Those people are alive because I could see what they couldn't. Sarah had developed what she called temporal cartography, the ability to map probability streams across large geographic areas and extended time periods. She'd created a network of sensors across the western United States, measuring temporal fluctuations, tracking displacement events, predicting where and when the next activations would occur. The pattern is accelerating, she said, showing us her latest data. When Dylan had his first episode a year ago, we were tracking maybe 5 to 6 displacement events per month across Nevada. Now we're seeing 30 to 40 per week. And it's spreading. California, Arizona, Utah, Colorado. The temporal nodes are activating in sequence, like a cascade. Within 5 years, the entire continental United States will be covered. Within 10 years, the entire planet. Why the acceleration? Torres asked. What's triggering it? Dr. Vasquez had a theory. Critical mass. The more people who achieve temporal awareness, the easier it becomes for others to activate. It's like a phase transition. Water doesn't gradually become ice molecule by molecule. It hits a critical temperature and suddenly the entire system shifts state. Humanity is approaching that critical point. Once enough people can perceive time non-linearly, the rest will follow rapidly. How many is enough? I asked. Based on our models, approximately 1% of the global population. That's 80 million people. Once we reach that threshold, temporal awareness will become self-propagating. The collective unconscious will shift. Linear time perception will become the exception rather than the rule. 80 million people. It seemed impossible. But then again, a year ago, I would have said temporal displacement was impossible. Now I experienced it twice a week. In June, we started the training program. Not officially sanctioned, not government approved, but real. We identified individuals who showed early signs of activation, unusual temporal sensitivity, frequent déjà vu experiences, accurate premonitions, and we taught them to enhance those abilities. The training took place during carefully controlled displacement events. We'd gather at high-activity locations along Highway 93, usually in groups of 5 to 7 people. The core anchors, myself, Marcus, Sarah, Torres, and 3 others, would induce a collective displacement, pulling everyone into the same temporal bubble. Then, we'd guide them through the experience, teaching them to navigate the branching timelines, to perceive the probability streams, to recognize their role in the pattern. Some people took to it immediately. They'd have one session and emerge fully activated, able to perceive temporal information as clearly as they perceived visual or auditory information. Others needed multiple sessions, gradually building their sensitivity over weeks or months. But everyone who completed the training changed. They all reported the same thing, a fundamental shift in how they experienced reality. The past no longer felt fixed and immutable. The future no longer felt uncertain and unknowable. Everything existed simultaneously in a vast web of causality, and they could perceive their place within that web. "It's like I was blind my whole life," one trainee told me after her third session. "And suddenly I can see, not with my eyes, with something deeper. I can see the shape of time itself." By September, we'd trained 217 people. By December, over 500. And each of them went out into the world and began spreading the awareness, teaching others, creating new nodes in the network. The government tried to stop us. In August, federal agents raided Dr. Vasquez's lab, confiscated her equipment, threatened her with prosecution. But they couldn't erase what we'd already learned, couldn't undo the activations that had already occurred, couldn't prevent the training sessions that happened in remote desert locations where they had no jurisdiction. More importantly, some of the agents who came to shut us down ended up activating themselves. You can't investigate temporal phenomena without becoming sensitive to temporal information. 3 former federal agents now serve on the Temporal Guidance Council. I had my longest displacement yet in November, 4 hours and 17 minutes. I was alone this time, parked at mile marker 93, a new hotspot we'd recently identified, when the episode began. This time, I didn't just see the future, I experienced it, lived it. I was pulled into a timeline approximately 15,000 years forward, and I inhabited a body, walked through a city, spoke with people. The humans of that era didn't look much different from us physically, but mentally, psychologically, spiritually, they were transformed. They moved through time with the same ease we move through space. Childhood, adulthood, old age. They experienced all of it simultaneously. Their consciousness distributed across their entire timeline. Death wasn't an ending, but a horizon. A boundary they could approach and examine from both sides. They showed me the archive in its mature form. It wasn't a building or a computer or even a place. It was a living structure woven through time itself, connecting every human moment across every possible timeline. A 4-dimensional tapestry where past, present, and future were all threads in the same infinite fabric. And they showed me the collapse. Not as a catastrophe, but as a transition point. The moment when humanity's temporal awareness became so profound that linear causality simply couldn't contain it anymore. The timeline didn't end, it transcended. Became something new, something we didn't have words for yet. The archive isn't trying to prevent the collapse, they explained. It's trying to ensure everyone makes it through. That no version of humanity, no possible timeline gets lost in the transition. You and the other anchors, you're the bridges, the guides who will help your generation navigate the shift when it comes. When will it come? I asked. It's already begun. You felt the first ripples a year ago. The acceleration Sarah documented. That's the collapse propagating backward through time, preparing humanity for the transition. By your linear measurement, you have approximately 200 years before the critical moment. But time isn't linear anymore, is it? So, in a very real sense, the collapse is happening now. Has always been happening, will always be happening. When I returned to my body in that patrol car, when I snapped back to November 2024, I understood something profound. We weren't preparing for some distant future event. We were living through it right now. The activation of temporal awareness wasn't a precursor to the collapse. It was the collapse itself, just perceived from within the transformation rather than from outside it. I called an emergency meeting of the Temporal Guidance Council. All 19 core members, plus Dr. Vasquez, and about 30 of our most advanced trainees. We met in the desert outside of Rachel, under a sky full of stars, and I told them what I'd learned. The timeline isn't going to collapse in the future, I said. It's collapsing now. Every displacement event, every activation, every moment of temporal awareness, that's the collapse in progress. We're not preparing for a catastrophe. We're facilitating a transformation. The implications were staggering. If the collapse was already happening, if we were living through humanity's transition from linear to temporal consciousness, then everything we did mattered. Every person we activated, every training session we conducted, every moment of understanding we spread, we were literally weaving the future that was reaching back to save us. So, what do? Marcus asked. We accelerate it, I said. We activate as many people as possible, as quickly as possible. We teach them to perceive the pattern, to navigate the timelines, to embrace their role as temporal beings. Because the more people who achieve awareness before the critical moment, the smoother the transition will be. The fewer people who get lost between timelines. Dr. Vasquez nodded slowly. You're talking about deliberately triggering a mass awakening, fundamentally changing human consciousness on a global scale. I'm talking about helping our species evolve. About being the midwives for humanity's birth into temporal awareness. That's what the archive has been preparing us for. That's why we were activated. Not to prevent the collapse, but to guide humanity through it. We voted. Unanimous. The Temporal Guidance Council would expand its operations, increase training sessions, identify and activate key individuals in positions of influence. Scientists, educators, artists, leaders. We would spread temporal awareness as far and as fast as we could, and we would trust that the pattern, the archive, our future selves, the collective wisdom of humanity across all timelines, would guide us. That was 3 months ago. We've now activated over 1,800 people. The network spans 12 countries. Displacement events are occurring worldwide, in clusters that follow the same geometric patterns we first identified along Highway 93. The mainstream media calls it a psychological phenomenon, a mass delusion fueled by social media and pseudoscience. The scientific establishment is divided, but the truth doesn't require their validation. The pattern is real, the transformation is happening, and nothing can stop it now. I'm still a highway patrol officer, still work Highway 93, still experience displacement episodes, sometimes 3 or 4 times a week now, each one deeper and longer than the last. But I'm also something more, a temporal anchor, a guide, a midwife for humanity's awakening. And if you've read this far, if you've felt something resonating in these words, if you've ever experienced a moment where time felt strange and fluid and full of infinite possibility, then you're ready. You're ready to activate, ready to see the pattern, ready to take your place in the network of temporal awareness that's spreading across our species like fire through dry grass. All you have to do is let go. Stop clinging to linear time. Stop pretending that the past is fixed and the future is unknowable. Open yourself to the possibility that every moment contains every other moment, that you exist across all of time simultaneously, that you are both the observer and the observed in an infinite dance of causality. The displacement will come. Maybe tonight, maybe next week, maybe in 5 minutes. But it will come. And when it does, don't fight it. Don't try to hold on to your linear perception of reality. Let go, and become what you were always meant to be, a temporal being, an anchor, a witness to the pattern.